Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the best entitled people stories we've read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled people you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that for every thumbs up this video gets, she won't try to get anyone fired for an entire week. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen demands I return the Christmas gift she gave me. I, 19 female, have a cousin that's 1 year younger than me. Her mom and my dad are siblings and very close, and we're both only kids, so we were raised practically like sisters. So, our Nana would always make us come on different days before Christmas to make us open our presents from her. Maybe to make sure we never saw each other's stuff as we opened them. But later, I would go to my cousin's house and see her with all of these nice, wonderful gifts and get confused and upset. My stuff was never that nice or expensive. After a few years, I began to realize that I was getting the second best stuff. If my cousin got Nike shoes for Christmas, I would get $10 shoes from a local store. If she got a new camera, I would get a disposable one. My clothes wouldn't be name brand like hers. She would even get more than me sometimes. I tried really hard not to let it bother me, but it was hard not to get jealous when I saw her stuff constantly. Last year, I got into an argument with my Nana and blew up on her. I accused her of favoritism and demanded we not get Christmas presents this year from her. We were old enough not to need presents, and I always felt like she got mine more out of obligation than joy. She denied it strongly, but said she would try harder if I felt like that. I agreed to another Christmas with her. A week ago, I went to my grandma's house by myself a day before my cousin. Most of my gifts were lackluster, but I appreciated the thought and effort she put in because it was closer to what I liked than usual. One of my gifts, though, made me feel great. A pair of round-cut diamond earrings. They were gorgeous and made of 10-karat yellow gold. Obviously very pricey. I had never been given something so expensive before. When I looked them up later, I found them to be over $400. I immediately thanked her for my earrings. I was smiling the whole time, and so was Nana. It felt like she finally understood what I had felt and was making up for years of treating me differently. The next day, however, she called and said I needed to bring back one of the presents. My cousin's earrings and mine had been swapped because she mislabeled our presents and she hadn't realized I had the wrong ones. I was suspicious and I texted my cousin and asked for a picture of my actual gift, cubic zirconia. They looked sort of similar with the shape and the colors. Furious, I refused to return the earrings. They had been labeled with my name and I was so happy to have them. My grandma should have pointed it out to me before I left with them. I said these would make up for all the favoritism over the years. Even now, a week later and close to Christmas, my grandma is hounding me about them. She's called me selfish and greedy and told me I ruined my cousin's Christmas. Even my cousin won't speak to me because I stole her diamonds, and she refuses to acknowledge that she always got better stuff. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but give them back. They will never bring you anything but pain or go no contact with grandma. She had made her choice and now you both can live with it as opposed to just you. Question, what does your parents say about all of this? Not the jerk, but your grandma is quite the jerk. The separate visits for Christmas make absolutely no sense to me, except of course if I was planning on giving better gifts to one of my grandkids over the other one. Some people may argue that you are greedy and materialistic, but I don't see it that way. Rather, I see it as someone who just wanted their grandma to give them equal gifts as they were giving their cousin, especially because you even said that you didn't even want gifts this year. I'm sure you wouldn't have thought anything more about getting $10 shoes if your cousin also got the same. As for the earrings, never give them back, and just suggest to your grandma that she buy a similar pair for cousin. Reply, when I was growing up, all 13 of my cousins opened their presents under the tree, but my dad always gave my brother and I ours separately in the den. Because our grandparents couldn't be bothered to actually get us something and felt humiliated when my dad gave us gifts from them in front of the group, I didn't figure this out until a while ago. They didn't like my mom, so they never loved us. After my parents got divorced, we were basically ignored, and I'm so glad my grandpa passed before I figured it out, so I at least could have some good memories that aren't tainted with hatred. Not the jerk, OP. Grandma knows what she's doing, or she would have taken the L on this one. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Grandma? Please let us know. No security light allowed? No problem. Years ago, when my wife and I had purchased a home, the builder had told us it might be part of an HOA depending on how many homes they ultimately constructed. We were among the first 5 buyers, so we pretty much had free reign to change what we wanted via permissions from the builders that those changes would be added to what was turned over to the HOA, and as for as long as we lived there, the changes could stay. The one change we did was add a motion security light on the back of our fence because my neighbor's kid would smoke back there, and I didn't want to smell it sitting on my patio or when I had the windows open on nice evenings. Well, that ticked my neighbors off for whatever reason, and she refused to believe her kid would be doing that, even though it didn't point towards any other home, just the grass between my fence and the woods. It kept the kids from smoking there without calling the cops on something so foolish and petty. But since it was cleared from the builder, she couldn't do anything. Well, 6 months later, we end up with an HOA, and she makes it priority 1 to get the lights. Several other neighbors followed what I did, whose homes faced the wooded area, removed. The requirement to get it changed, since they were builder approved, was 80% of the community, so the only votes to keep came from those of us on the back of the property. So we have to remove them, being permanent changes. Not even 3 days later, her kid is back there smoking again. The HOA counter to why I had it was to call the police non-emergency number, but that's absolutely stupid to risk messing up some kid's life because he just wanted to smoke, when that's an issue with his parents, who, remember, don't even believe he does it, should be dealing with. So now I'm pretty livid. This jerk cried to the point I had to remove a cheap and non-disruptive fix. She refused to be a parent and keep her kid from impeding on us, so it's time for me to be petty. The next day after her kid first went back there, I go out, buy a 12-foot section of 4x4, wire, concrete, and large planter, and 3 6,000 lumen floodlights, and build essentially a mini portable stadium light setup, rigged to the motion sensor, so whenever anyone passed by my fence, instead of being a small area immediately behind my house lit up, the sun came out to the woods with one light giving her home an X-ray. The first time her kid went back there, it was glorious. I got a picture of him for proof before he skirted off, and it sent her through the roof getting those free X-rays. I showed her the picture and she still didn't care, saying if it goes off again, I'll call the police. And I was fine with it, because I told her they'd see the same picture I'd just shown her. In reality, they wouldn't, but Martha, the manatee, didn't know that, and I didn't expect her to try and call my bluff, which she never did. Just complained to the HOA a lot. In the morning time, I'd lay the contraption down so it couldn't be seen, and raise it up after it got dark. About a week after this, I get a summons to the HOA meeting that's happening that week, and since it was disciplinary for my contraption, their lawyer was there, and they want to hear the case. So I lay everything out, from builder to pictures showing how the original light didn't shine any brighter than the one on her porch and couldn't be seen from inside the homes. Her vendetta to change the HOA rules to suit what she wanted. 3 of the 5 other neighbors who had to remove their security lights were also there to argue for getting them back when I went. After about 40 minutes, the lawyer comes back and pretty much said, "Well, Mr. and Mrs. Jeff A. Brutus, you are right. This isn't a permanent structure, so it technically is allowed, but you can't have a light facing her property any longer. In addition, by the 1st of next month, you will all be allowed to reinstall your smaller lights, as they did provide a measure of security that benefits the property as a whole." So Martha was blessed with another week of the sun on a pole and being mad about it. Those of us who lived facing the woods got our lights back, and after reselling the lights, I made most of my money back. I spent on supplies making that monstrosity. It was absolutely worth spending the few $100s to out-petty a bad parent and insufferable neighbor. Am I the jerk for telling a coworker her choice of names for her twins is idiotic? I cannot believe that there is a split opinion for this at my office, but here we go. A coworker of mine, 39 female, recently had twin boys after a long battle with infertility. She has made her first appearance into the office with her new babies to introduce them to our team. When asked what she had named the boys, as up until this appearance she was undecided, she told me that she was naming them Sean. When I asked about the other baby, she said, "No, they are both Sean, one with an A and one with an E, so Sean and Scene." This coworker's last name is also Sean. When I pointed this out, she said, "Yes, like Tom Tom or JJ." I immediately, and without thinking, said, "That is the most idiotic thing I've heard, and it's going to be so confusing." A bunch of people laughed, and a bunch immediately looked away. After she left, I got a few text messages saying it's not my place to comment on people's choice of name. Am I the jerk for saying that that is a terrible naming idea? Edit additional information. No, they don't have middle names. She wanted their names to be like Tom Tom or JJ. This is apparently not the first round of negative feedback she's had. We are on good terms. We've worked together across 3 companies over 12 years. She just said, "It'll grow on you." The names are both pronounced Sean, like Sean. I'm gonna get downvoted for this, but not the jerk. I'm an identical twin. Matching names is probably the most cruelest thing you could do to a person. It's not just confusing. It would keep the twins from developing identities outside of their twinness. You know what happens to twins that can't establish independent identities? At best, they need years of family therapy to work through their relationship problems. At worst, they hate each other. Twins have it hard enough working through what it means to be a twin. Why make that harder? Also, speaking practically, forget parents that do that creative spelling BS for common names. There's no way you should look at the name Scene and think to yourself, "Yep, that's clearly pronounced as Sean." Edit. Apparently I misjudged this thread. When I wrote this, everyone was saying that OP was the jerk because they were rude and their opinion was not needed. Reading it back, OP probably could have phrased it better, but it needed to be said. Also, when I was criticizing the name, I was referring exclusively to the name Scene and not Sean. Sean is a normal name, and quite frankly, the correct spelling of that name. Scene is the ridiculous name. Not the jerk. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Those poor, poor boys. In the UK, there are 2 famous footballers whose father's name is Neville. It is a well-known joke throughout the country that this is his name and he is ridiculed for it. I can't imagine also being a twin with the exact same name, but one of them is spelled totally wrong. This woman is inherently selfish for doing this to her kids. I'm shocked it was allowed when she registered the births. Sweden has a law banning names which will cause offense or discomfort to the kid, and Denmark has a law banning names that aren't on a list of pre-approved names. And this nonsense is why. Well, what do you think? Were these names okay for the babies or not? Please let us know. Why do some parents insist on giving their kids such stupid names? Am I the jerk for replacing the stones in my grandma's ring? My grandma passed 10 years ago, and when her estate was settled, I ended up with her wedding ring. She didn't leave it to me specifically, but that's the way things turned out. It fits me, but I was already married at the time of her passing. When I got the ring, that was the first time I had ever seen it. I was close with Grandma, but never knew her to wear any jewelry. She must have worn it a lot at some point though, because the center stone and one of the side stones had fallen out. It made me sad to see it that way, and my first thought at the time was to save and buy new stones for it, so it could look new again. My husband said I shouldn't, because since I already have a wedding ring, this one isn't really mine to keep or wear. One of our future kids might want to use it as a wedding ring and pick out their own stones. The ring sat in my drawer for 10 years, and just recently I decided to go for it anyway. We do have kids now, but there's no telling if they'll ever get married, or if they'll want to use this ring when they do. They never even met my grandma, so why would they? It'd be more appealing to them with the stones in it anyway, so I had it restored. The stones are fairly small compared to modern rings, so the price wasn't a deal breaker for our family. It was on par with any other gift I might have picked up for myself at Christmas. My husband is annoyed and says I'm selfish for choosing to enjoy the ring for myself instead of saving it for others. But it's a ring, not a pie. It'll still be around in 20 years if one of the kids wants it when they get engaged. I can't believe I have to ask, but is there any way he's right and I'm the jerk here? Edit. Wow, this has really taken off. Thank you for the awards and the reassurance and perspective you've all offered. A couple of questions keep coming up. 1. How did I pay for the stones? From a joint account. We don't have individual accounts. The amount was small though. It's Christmas, and I always spend roughly this amount for my gift. 2. Is the ring nicer or more expensive than my engagement ring for my husband? No. My grandparents were rural farmers and had neither the money nor any practical use for extravagant things. Big diamonds weren't in fashion back then. Its value is almost entirely sentimental, which leads to my above point. Replacing the stones wasn't expensive. They were small and affordable. 3. Are you wearing it instead of your own wedding ring? I still wear my wedding ring and plan to wear this one on my right hand. I haven't worn it at all yet, since it isn't Christmas for a few more days. Not the jerk. Tell your husband to shut up. It's your heirloom to do with what you want. If your kids want it, that's a big if, they would 100% prefer the stones already there. Not the jerk. Why exactly is your husband inserting himself so much into this decision of yours? Doesn't he want you to enjoy your grandma's ring? Can you wear it on your other ring finger that isn't on your wedding ring hand? You say you didn't spend an outrageous amount any more than you normally would for a present for yourself. So what exactly is his issue here besides being annoying, controlling, and immature about your decision and about your ring? Heck, you could wear it on a chain around your neck to feel closer to your grandma if you don't want to wear it on your hand. It would also serve as a replacement ring if ever your wedding ring is getting cleaned or repaired for any reason. To me, he just seems like he's being a Grinch, unless you can provide some other reasonable reason as to why he was opposed to you restoring and wearing your grandma's ring. No, I don't work here. You okay? Anything I can do to help? The holidays are stressful, I get that. Even without the supply chain issues that have been happening all over the world, getting that perfect gift for your loved ones can be difficult. We've all heard the songs about trying to fight the crowds, about obnoxious relatives, the frenzy of getting that latest hot toy so one can look on proudly Christmas morning as your kids tear through the wrapping paper like a pack of consumer-driven Mongols. Sometimes, though, a little patience and a kind word can soothe the insanity. Which is how I found myself yesterday. Have the day off from my retail job, have already done my shopping and wrapping, and decided to treat myself to a movie. Our local theater closed during the lockdown, so the only option is about 20 minutes away in one of those pre-planned shopping villages. Along with the movie theater, there's restaurants, retail establishments, and a good-sized bookstore. I had some time to spend before my show, Spider-Man: No Way Home, for those wondering. So I'm at this bookstore, dodging the mad rush of people trying to get those last-minute purchases. I'm in the history section, seeing if there's any good WW2 books I don't have, and I notice that one of the tables is just a mess. No issues, I start straightening it up, sorting the books, and helping my fellow retail employees. Now, I'm wearing a wool coat and a flat cap and a mask. Nothing that makes me look like I work there. But since I've made the mistake of cleaning something, I'm now a target. Hey! I turn to have a smartphone shoved into my face and my eyes cross. Help me find this. Whoa! I take a step back, and there's a very anxious lady gesticulating with her phone wildly. I need this now. Slow down. What's wrong? I said help me find this now. She's stressed out. Might look like a typical Karen, but I don't know her story. I don't work here, and before you say a word, I was straightening that table up because I felt like it. Now, let's try this again. What are you looking for? What do you mean you don't? I cut her off. I mean exactly what I just said. I do not work here. But what are you looking for? She deflates and is on the verge of tears. I need this for my kids. She holds up her phone. On the screen is Betrayal at House on the Hill. Good game. And I can't find it. My daughter just wants this, and I just can't find anything in this stupid... I know where that is. Take a moment. Breathe. It's gonna be okay. She's just stressed to heck and back. I'm sorry. She just keeps saying, I just lost my mom. She's trying not to cry as I guide her to the games. The spot for Betrayal is empty, but I find a copy in another spot before she has a meltdown. Okay, here you go. Anything else you need help with? She's holding the box in her hands, fingers nearly crushing the edges. Why did you help me? She squeaks. I'm such a jerk. Because you needed help. Merry Christmas. She gave me a grateful smile and went to pay. No, I didn't get a pay it forward. I didn't get a free coffee. I didn't get a thank you from the employees. But that smile, to help a fellow human being in a stressful time, worth it. God bless us, everyone. Grandma Karen doesn't understand what a closed section means, threatens me with corporate, doesn't realize we have a prior history. I used to be a manager at a TGI Chili Bees far back in the year of our Lord 2014. I was in charge of front of house, and I hated it. Stories like this are why. Slow weekday evening, and we've got a skeleton crew on hand. We were managing just fine, but given the size of our restaurant, along with the low numbers, we had the far back corner section completely closed down. And by that, I mean lights off, chairs up on the table shut down. The situation would have been obvious to any normal person. In walks Grandma Karen. I knew this woman from a previous restaurant I worked at. She came in a few times a week with her bridge group, the majority of which were sinfully obnoxious. They were the type to always order the bare minimum from our lunch menu, only drink water, yet demand multiple lemons, sugar, etc., and leave candy wrappers everywhere. They demanded constant attention from our servers and were lucky to leave whatever change they got back from paying cash for tip. Example, $9.78 bill, they're leaving that 22 cents if they feel generous. And guess what? Her bridge group wanted to play a night game. Why at TGI Chili Bees of all places? At least my last restaurant was in a hotel, so they could have some degree of privacy. I just happened to be watching the host stand when she came in. She tells me she wants to sit in the back, away from everyone else, so they can be as far away from other customers as possible. Lo and behold, she points right at that closed section. Now, as the front of house manager, I could easily have accommodated them back there. But I knew exactly what kind of customers they were going to be, and I wasn't willing to put any of my servers through that BS. So I told her, no, that section is closed, and I don't have a server back there. But I can put her in the far corner of an open section. Grandma Karen. I don't want to be in that section. I want to be in that corner back there. Me. Ma'am, I don't have a server back there, and the section is completely closed down. Do you see the chairs back there? We don't even have condiments on the table. We're doing some deep cleaning with those. The customer is always right, and I'm the customer, so we're going to sit back there. Me. Ma'am, are you willing to pull those chairs down yourself? Because we can't spare the staff to do it right now. At this point, she could tell I wasn't going to budge, and my host had come up to the stand, so she mumbles something about just putting her wherever. My server gets a place set up for them, and that seems to be the end of it. The rest of the group comes in, eats, plays cards, does their thing. I recognize quite a few of them. Several even stopped and said hi, not realizing I wasn't at my previous restaurant anymore. After they finish and the rest of the group leaves, Grandma Karen is getting her things together and points her bony finger at me to call me over. Grandma Karen. I just want you to know that you were extremely rude. The customer is always right, and you needed to let us have that section. I just started trying to explain again that I didn't have the staff to man the entire restaurant, but she wasn't having it. I will be calling corporate on you. I already have their number. I'm going to tell them you wouldn't accommodate a group of senior citizens, and we will be taking our business elsewhere. We would have been in here multiple times a week for our meetings, so you just lost yourself a lot of business, buddy. I specifically remember thinking it was weird for a woman well into her 80s to be calling a 20-something man buddy. Well, here's where it gets good. Remember me telling you that I was familiar with her group from my previous restaurant? Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry you feel that way, but if you want to continue to hold your bridge games at insert old restaurant's name here, they have an excellent dinner menu, and they're open from 4:30 to 9. They would even be able to put you at your usual table. You could see the mental process displaying on her face, confusion to realization to fury to pure resignation. Once it occurred to her that I not only knew her and her group, but what kind of customers they really were, she literally said nothing else. She walked straight out of the restaurant and out of my life. I never saw her in there again. Last I heard, the bridge group ended up leaving my old restaurant too. They got upset when the dining room manager finally told them they weren't allowed to bring in outside candy anymore because they had managed to wreck 2 vacuum cleaners due to wrappers getting sucked up into the filters. Am I the jerk for trying to stop my niece from taking stuff home in her pockets that doesn't belong to her? My niece is 8. She has 3 siblings, but they don't seem to have this problem. She likes to put things in her pockets, and then she forgets about them and takes them home, and then I never see them again. My playroom is really organized, and a lot of the toys in there are part of displays or sets that they can play with when they come visit. For example, we have a life-size Paw Patrol tower with all of the puppies. The puppies are a really important part of the set, and we also have a table with a wooden forest scene made out of stacker blocks. Wild animals, mountains, hills, and trees make up this set and don't mesh together if a piece is missing. When the kids go home, I put everything back in its place for next time. The puppies sit waiting on their respective cars on the Paw Patrol lookout tower. The wooden sheep sit on the hills and mountains with a rainbow stacker making up the rear of the scene. Lately, pieces have been disappearing. I noticed that she had put one of the animals from our stacker set in her pocket, and I told her to make sure that she didn't accidentally take it home. This upset her grandma, who was listening to the conversation. In the end, the fox was still lost and was never seen again. I have since taken my niece to different craft fairs and stores, and she has a habit of getting excited and putting on jewelry and things like that, getting distracted, and then walking away with the unpaid-for jewelry around her neck or wrists. I have grabbed her a few times now and taken the jewelry off of her. So has her grandma, so she knows that this is an issue with her. Well, since little pieces have been going missing, I've mentioned it a few times, just telling her mom or grandma that she might have accidentally, emphasis on accidentally, taken toys home with her in her pockets. But it's gotten to the point now that they have directly accused me of saying that she's stealing, and even told me to drop it and forget about the lost toys because they were small and not worth the insults in the long run. This happened after she came home from a friend's house with something that clearly belonged to them, and I said that we needed to get it back to them and maybe have a talk with her. Grandpa actually sided with me on this and said that even if it's an accident, she needs to become self-aware before she gets in trouble in a store or something. Grandma became upset at the both of us and said that it wasn't worth pressing. She's 8. This is not an accident. You are not the jerk. This behavior will cause her serious problems in the future. She's lucky to have one person in her life who actually cares. The worst part is their refusal to do anything is what's causing the problem. Either she does have issues with focus and forgets she has the item, or is stealing. That's something to deal with. But by keeping said items, they're either rewarding the theft or taking an innocent habit and making it theft. People will not want her around once they realize it's her, whereas if it's innocent and you're always dropping the stuff back, taking it off her before leaving, they're more likely to be forgiving and possibly remind her themselves. Plus, if they're writing it off because she's young, they'll likely not actually teach her not to and just expect her to magically know not to one day and cause major issues. My mother demands I let her stay at me and my girlfriend's house. I'm literally over the moon for the past several hours despite what has happened between me and my mother again. I've made several posts on here about how my mother behaves towards my relationship and my girlfriend, Eva. For those of you who haven't seen them, Eva is of foreign ancestry and has vitiligo, which my mother doesn't like at all, though I find it absolutely beautiful. She has done and said some very hurtful things to break us apart, which, thanks to my incredibly supportive father and many more family members, only led to her having to stay at her sister's, who was pretty much the same as her, until today. Even though my aunt is hateful towards Eva as my mother, unlike my mother, she's not a lazy couch potato, and after some time got fed up with my mother and gave her some time to get out of her apartment. At least that's what I'm told. Because my father wouldn't accept her back home, she tried her luck with me, despite the fact that she already stayed at me and Eva's place months ago, and it ended up in a huge argument, which had left both me and Eva in tears. So earlier today, my mother appeared at the gate. Great. At first, I thought that maybe she would go away if we pretend to not be at home, but it didn't work. The longer she was standing there, the more she was shouting and hitting the bell. I accepted my fate and went to confront her. Mom: "There you are. What were you two doing that took you so long?" Me: "What do you want? I told you to stay away from us. I told you to get the heck out of our lives." Mom: "Well, instead of being at your aunt's, I thought of spending the holiday with you and Eva." I could not believe it. Not only did she have the audacity to come and ask to stay, but she addressed Eva by her name, not "that girl of yours" or some hurtful insult. Me: "Well, too bad. We're not letting you ruin our Christmas and New Year's." "Oh, come on. I'm just trying to get along." Me: "That's what we tried when we let you stay last time, and look how that ended." "It's not my fault that she's so insolent." Me: "She's not. You, however, are. Not only for what you did before, but you have the audacity to come here and demand to stay with us?" "How dare you? How dare you choose this ugly jerk over—" I interrupted her. Me: "Over you? Always." "How dare you? You shouldn't throw your life away for someone so ugly. There's tons of better people to date." Me: "I'm happy with her. Happier than ever. But you still have to be hurtful towards her." Mom: "I'm just trying to do what's the best for you." "I know what's best for you." Me: "If you did what was best for me, you'd leave us alone." I then went inside while my mother was insulting both of us. Me: "You're the disgusting one here. I'm just saying what I think of you and doing what I think is right." And I slammed the door shut. She continued with her insults until some neighbors threatened to call the police. Public offense, I assume. Then she left. Later, I called my father, who told me that Aunt basically kicked my mother out. Edit: Thank you everyone so much for the kind words, and since I can't do so in person, awards. and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I was told by my father that she's staying over at some friend's place. Karen and her boyfriend steal from me, so I kick her out. Me, 29 male, and Erica, 27 female, dated for 2 years and have been engaged the last 4 months. After we got engaged, Erica moved into my house. I still pay the mortgage while she pays for utilities, groceries, and household items. After we get married, the plan is to put her on the house so she gets equity as well. Her friend Leah, who's 27, and her have been best friends since high school. I don't particularly like Leah, but have always been cordial as I know she's going to be in my life. My issue is, Leah thinks of my home as hers. A couple examples. She always brings her boyfriend over, and he's a sketchy guy. She talks to me in a very disrespectful way in my own house, like I'm a guest and she and Erica own it. One day I went out to my garage and some of my tools were missing. I checked my cameras and Leah and her boyfriend were in my garage with Erica and took some tools with them. I asked Erica and she said they were just borrowing and would return them later. I had to reach out multiple times for them to finally return the tools weeks later. I have a nice wine and liquor collection and I was working late one Friday. While working, I heard some clunking of bottles together. Erica wasn't home, so I went out to see what was up. Leah was behind my bar. I asked what she was doing, and she said that Erica told her it was okay to borrow a bottle of wine for her party and that she would pay it back. I told her no, that wasn't all right, and to leave. I asked Erica about this, and she said, "I don't remember telling Leah she could take a bottle, but I might have, I don't remember." I told her at this point I wasn't comfortable with Leah being in my house. Erica sort of understood, but also blew me off. Final straw came when I wanted to go hit some golf balls and my clubs were missing. I freaked out because I golf regularly and my clubs are my biggest investment. Went to check the camera again and Leah used my garage code and took the clubs. I blew up, called Erica and told her to get them back immediately. Erica said Leah had asked for the garage code to grab some clothes from her closet and not my clubs. I threatened to call the police, but Erica stopped me. Leah kept telling us that her boyfriend needed them for a work thing. I got them back almost 4 days after they were taken and they were dirty. At this point, I set Erica down and told her that if I see Leah in my house again, then I'm calling the cops. No discussion. Erica got upset, saying that it's her best friend and that wasn't fair to do to her in our house. I said it's a pattern, and since Erica's stuff isn't affected, she doesn't care. I said she can go over to Leah's if she wants to see her. She said she can't do this because Leah doesn't like her apartment and Leah's boyfriend is always there, which makes Erica uncomfortable. I'm now getting the silent treatment and getting called a jerk, but I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Do not put this lady on the deed to your home. Heck, don't marry her. You don't have a Leah problem, you have a fiancé problem. Time to move on, buddy. I agree, OP. Open your eyes. And you can truly see that Leah does not give a single hoot. She got outed multiple times on camera, got caught taking a bottle of wine, and did not give a single hoot. Leah does not respect the OP, plain and simple. And Erica is fully endorsing this behavior in their house, and she doesn't own any part of it. Not the jerk, but are you sure you want to marry this woman? She's either an idiot for letting her friend rob you both, or the two of them are up to something. OP. Some second thoughts have definitely crept in, especially putting her name on the house. Just a tough situation because Erica doesn't have a ton of close friends. I don't have many friends either, but it's because I cut people like Leah and Erica out of my life before they can do more damage. I was raised in a troubled household and made some poor friend choices as a result that have just completely gutted me emotionally. I'd rather have almost no friends by choice than associate with jerks. But you're 100% right that some people don't have many friends because they're bad people and they're the ones people like me have cut out of their lives. You're the jerk. Going against the grain here, but it is her house too because she lives there and she contributes. She can have her friend over if she wants, including her boyfriend. If they're stealing, that is another issue you need to handle with them. Maybe stop leaving stuff out where they can get to it. But you can't ban her friends from your house just because you don't like them. That is super controlling, and I would consider it a red flag. You're supposed to accept her friends because they are a part of her, not just the ones you like. Update. I want to thank you all for the kind words and comments. I knew after reading the comments that it was time to come to a resolution. I decided to drive home from work and talk with Erica. When I showed up, Leah's car was parked in the driveway. I went inside and they were watching TV. I told Leah immediately to get out. She tried to argue, but I told her if she didn't, then I'm calling the police. Erica tried to get upset that I kicked out her friend, but I said I'm done talking about Leah because at this point, nothing is changing with that relationship. Sat Erica down and showed her this post. 20 minutes of reading later, I asked her what she thought. She said, "Those people don't understand our relationship or Leah." I knew then that it was over. I asked her to hold out her hand and I took the ring off. She begged, saying she's sorry and she'll cut Leah off, etc. I told her I can't even trust her with the garage code. How am I supposed to trust her as my wife? She's locked herself in our room now. I'm in the kitchen packing up her things. I called her dad and mom, telling them about what has happened, and they were furious. Leah is apparently banned from their house and has been since high school. I didn't know this, but her parents said it's been like this since high school. They're coming this weekend to get Erica and her stuff. I couldn't be any happier than I am right now. A huge weight feels lifted off my shoulders. I felt like if I never made this post, I would have never seen how messed up my life had become. Sincerely, thank you everyone. Can't wait to take my clubs out and play around now that I have more free time. Really excited to see what single life brings, and I can't thank you all enough again. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. I don't know who the biggest jerk is, Erica, Leah, or that last commenter. Am I the jerk for not wanting a friend at my dinner since they only eat well-done beef? I know what you're all thinking. Another well-done steak, am I the jerk? But this one is different. 35, male here. My friend Brandon, who's 34, was surfing YouTube and found a video for Gordon Ramsay's beef Wellington and got intrigued. For reference, beef Wellington is a whole beef tenderloin wrapped in a puff pastry and baked in the oven, then sliced to serve multiple people. It's a pretty old school dish, but Gordon Ramsay made a viral video about it and it got popular again. It's also expensive, $100+, and pretty technical to make, so it's mostly popular as a video to drool over rather than something people make regularly. Brandon knows I'm a hobby home cook, and so he asked me about beef Wellington. I said I was familiar with the dish because of YouTube, but I never attempted to make it before because it's pretty expensive. Brandon said he was eager to try beef Wellington, and he proposed a deal with me. He said he would pay for the ingredients if I'm willing to make it. I took him up on the offer on the caveat that there's a possibility it might not be perfect. We came up with a plan as follows. I would get the groceries the morning of and use the afternoon to make a beef Wellington for 8 people at my home. Brandon and I would agree on 6 guests to join us for dinner. Invites were sent out well in advance. However, a few days before the dinner, one of the guests had to cancel. My solution to this was that I would just cut the pieces a little thicker and we would just have a 7-person dinner. Brandon even agreed to this. However, the word got out in our friend group that there was an open seat. 2 of our guests, Kate and David, 35, a married couple, suggested they bring along our mutual friend, Ava, who's 34. I said no to the suggestion. We've known Ava for years. She's a great person and I have nothing against her. The thing is, for this situation, is that she doesn't eat beef with any pink. If it was burgers or steaks, I would just cook hers the way she likes it. But since this is a beef Wellington roast, the whole thing is cooked the same. They asked why I couldn't just make the whole thing well done. I said I myself wouldn't be willing to eat well done tenderloin and would just rather not cook than make that. I also said if I'm catering to anyone, it's Brandon because the meal is on his dime. They then asked why I couldn't just make Ava's portion well done. I tried to explain that it would be difficult to do that. I'd have to cut her piece, then take it back to the kitchen to cook it more after dinner had already started. The thing was going to take me hours to make. After I cut it, I'm sitting down and I'm eating. Kate and David are now accusing me of being unaccommodating and excluding Ava, and saying I'm the jerk. What do you all think? Not the jerk. They're being inconsiderate to your time and effort. If they think it's so easy to accommodate Ava, they should do it at their house and see what it's like. As a hobby baker/cook, I definitely understand where you're coming from. Not the jerk. Uninvite Kate and David from your life. If they were 23, I'd say cut them some slack. But a 35-year-old demanding the host of an event change the dinner for someone the host didn't invite? The chances they grow up are slim. The fact that you even brought up so many technical reasons for why it's impossible. The fact that you responded to their ridiculous arguments. I'm worried you're a serious pushover. Not the jerk. This is a meal that cannot be easily modified for individual people. It's like a Thanksgiving turkey or a Christmas ham. Everyone gets the same thing. Brandon is paying and you're the one doing the work, so nobody gets to overrule you in how it's made. It's in very poor taste for your friends to invite another person along and expect you to cater to them over everyone else. Not the jerk. That's awfully bold to invite someone to a dinner you aren't hosting and expect them to cater to that guest's preferences that affects the entire group. Yes, you are excluding her. She wasn't invited. Period. Just cut larger slices. If you need to play nice, then just say you had multiple people who wanted to come and can't accommodate all, so you chose no one, and everyone will enjoy larger portions and enjoy the meal the host made. If they would like to host a dinner for Ava, they can, and serve her whatever she'd like, but you aren't the jerk for not inviting her. They asked, you said no, that's it. Done deal. P.S. I'd like to come to the dinner too. You're the jerk. What is it with all you people eating raw bloody meat? Don't you know it's dangerous to eat meat that's undercooked? I guess it's just natural selection doing its thing. Sorry, not sorry. It's not blood. It's a protein called hemoglobin, you imbecile. Speaking of beef, how do you like your steaks cooked? Please let us know. If anyone says well done, please go easy on them. Some people's taste buds just don't function properly. Yes, you have to pay for what you eat. For context, I work at an upscale steakhouse that has an all-you-can-eat dinner package. It's pretty spendy, but it's all-you-can-eat steak. Our salad bar has enough charcuterie, composed salads, and soup to be a meal in itself, so we offer just that. Understandably, it's a lot cheaper. It's popular with vegetarians and little old ladies who can't eat their weight in ribeye. I had a four-top last night. One lady ordered just a salad bar. I take away her table marker for steak, so the chefs know she's not getting meat, and go about my business. When I bring my drinks, I notice she's gotten an extra plate from another server. When the steak comes by, her husband gets a huge portion and gives half to his wife. I check back and try to be casual. There's so much to choose from. It all looks delicious. Ma'am, would you like to switch to our dinner? Nope, she swears she only wants salad. Over an hour, the table burns through 4 plates of our most expensive cuts. It's messing up the chefs because half of what they think they need is going to the only salad lady who is plowing through filet mignon and sides. I give my manager a heads up and he says charge for dinner. I drop the check and she is irate. I was just trying 1 bite of my husband's steak. You're going to charge me dinner for 1 bite? My managers are excellent, so he steps in and lets her know he saw her eating multiple plates of steak. Luckily, she doesn't put up a fight, just sulks and says she's never coming back to somewhere that doesn't even let her share with her husband. I feel bad for the other people. They were all great and looked very visibly embarrassed. She stiffs, they leave 30% on their checks. But seriously, why be cheap at an expensive restaurant? There are hundreds of other places in this city. I'm the one that gets chewed out if everyone notices and I don't say anything, and you're doing it in front of everyone. Please don't make my night more difficult because you think you can outsmart the menu. Reply: I was at a restaurant that featured all you can eat and had a huge variety of sides and main courses available. My table was next to a bunch of ladies who gave me the impression that it would be exhausting to spend any time around them. One of the ladies told the waitress, I want the all you can eat, but there's so much food that I probably won't be able to try everything you have. So just bring me a bunch of doggy bags too, so I can take some of the entrees home. She got more than a little upset when the waitress explained that's not how the restaurant worked. When I was in college, I once tried to game the system at a newly opened buffet, a cheap restaurant, and ordered a water and filled it with Sprite. As I turned around, I noticed a manager probably saw me. Clear glasses were for water. He handled it in a politely hilarious way. He came to our table with a water pitcher and cheerfully topped off my drink with ice water. I used to eat at a restaurant that had an all-you-can-eat salad bar, but every Friday, the end of the buffet was seafood. Obviously, that wasn't included in the salad bar part. My family used to place bets on how many servers we would hear explaining that to upset customers receiving their bill over the course of our own dinner. The record definitely made it into the double digits. The Footlong Saga. Back when I used to work in a sandwich shop, whose specialty was footlong sandwiches, there was a small media storm about how our sandwiches weren't exactly a foot long. Lots of people jumped on social media showing a ruler next to their sandwich and tagging the company. We got notified about it in a staff email, but they really didn't care for two reasons. It was dumb. It was only the bread. The ingredients were the same regardless. For anyone who hasn't worked for them, the meat is pre-portioned by weight or quantity of slices, cheese is 4 slices, and the salad and sauce is unlimited. So if your bread was 11 or 12 inches, foot long, you still got 4 slices of ham or 2 chicken patties, or the obscene amount of lettuce. One quiet afternoon, a customer from 15 minutes ago saunters back into our store and stands her, now squished, sandwich up on its end on the counter, holding it against a ruler. She gleefully exclaims that, "This isn't 12 inches," with a smug look only a Karen could pull off. I jumped in to avoid my staff having to deal with this lady and attempted to politely explain the above points, about how the meat and cheese are the same no matter the variances in the bread sizes, and that everything else was virtually unlimited. But she rudely interjected, Karen, holding her hand up in a stop sign, "I don't need you to make excuses. This sandwich is not the full 12 inches, and I want it fixed." Me, fine, no problem at all. I unwrapped her sandwich to find 2 bites already taken out of it and figured she just wanted to get a fresh new sandwich out of us. Being the jerk she was, I wasn't allowing that to happen. I went to the bread cabinet and pulled out a tray and started measuring each one until I found one that was almost 13 inches. Bread proofs and bakes however it pleases, so when it's handmade, this is expected by any reasonable person. I whip out the bread onto the make bench and started cutting the bread like I would any other sandwich. Only once I put the knife down, I promptly scooped up her sandwich and tipped all the contents onto the new bread. It looked pretty haggard, to be fair. She was just standing there, mouth half agape, and didn't say anything. I gleefully asked her if she would like me to add any extra sauce, and she sighed so hard I almost felt the wind of it. "Yeah, I guess." After I wrapped up the sandwich in fresh wrapping paper, and as I passed it to her, she stated, "This one is definitely 12 inches, with the same smug grin she gave me. And as I passed it to her, I stated, "This one is definitely 12 inches, with the same smug grin she gave me." The jerk shuffled out the door, but later called the store owner to complain. The owner and I were on great terms, as he directly picked me to be the supervisor I was at the time. So after asking for my side of the story, he basically told Karen to buzz off. She didn't get anything out of us. The whole media situation was a nightmare for him, so he thanked me for handling it the way I did and not wasting extra food. Am I the jerk for ruining vacation for me and my husband because of his pay raise? Me, 31 female, and my husband, 33 male, have been together for 9 years. We both were young and broke when we first met. My career took off, and I've been making great money for years. He, however, struggled with his career path the entire time. He's had close to 20 different jobs and was unemployed multiple times. This was never a problem for me, but the fact I make 3 to 4 times more was definitely messing up with his ego. He likes to act like a man, especially in public. To make things between us more smooth, I've been paying the majority of our bills and investing and saving big chunks of my salary with almost no disposable income left. This way, he got to keep most of his money he got to take us out, pay for all of our activities, etc. This dynamic worked well for us for years. Now, recently, he found a career that he loves. He's been with the same company for 2 years, which is the longest he has ever held a job. They gave him a huge promotion last month with a huge pay raise. Ever since he got this promotion, he started acting differently. He would get drunk every night, hang out with his friends or family, and just talk about how great he is. At first, I was supportive and was letting him be the center of attention, but after a couple of weeks, it became irritating. He started presenting my accomplishments as his own. He would say, "My condo," but his name is not even on the deed, nor did he contribute towards down payment or mortgage, or "my business," when referring to a business that we recently started, but I did 100% of all the work, and he didn't contribute at all, even when I needed his help. We went on vacation to Mexico, and I was really hoping that things would change back to normal, but it only got worse. He started handing out $100 bills as tips left and right. He would demand the biggest lobster tail, ask the waiter to find him a massage therapist and bring it to the restaurant, say, I just paid for that guy's month worth of rent. I didn't like that. I'm still making more money than him, but I never throw it in people's faces. He was trying to buy me $3,000 earrings and a $5,000 art piece. He hasn't even gotten his first paycheck at the new job yet, and he has close to $50,000 in credit card debt. And the cash that he was giving to everyone, he took it from the cash emergency fund that I kept at home. And he started treating me differently, like I'm a trophy. He would show me off to everyone, try to buy me expensive things, but he wouldn't talk to me or spend any time with me. He was also drunk the entire time. I tried talking to him multiple times. He was always either drunk or hungover, and the next day he wouldn't even remember talking to me. On the third day of the trip, I snapped. I was about to fly home on my own. He promised to not have another drink while on vacation, and he spent the rest of the time with me, but I was still angry and we argued a lot. Neither of us enjoyed the rest of the trip. My friends say I overreacted. Am I the jerk for ruining this vacation? Not the jerk. It's actually disturbing that you think you might be the jerk here. Why are your standards so low? OP. My friend and her husband were in Mexico with us, so she was there and witnessed it in person, and she thinks it wasn't that bad. I don't think she's a bad friend. She's just more chill than me. And also, she herself doesn't work, and her husband supports her, buys her expensive gifts all the time, and she loves it. So this seems normal to her. I could have married someone like that easily, but I'm too ambitious to stay home, and I want to be treated with respect and not like a trophy. I almost feel like my husband was seeing their dynamic and was trying to imitate it in a way because he doesn't normally act this way. Not the jerk. You still have the same problem you always had, a husband with emotional troubles. He really needs to work on that. Perhaps therapy would help, though he sounds like the sort of person who might think therapy isn't manly. And now that he makes more money than before, you two need to have a serious discussion about how your finances will change. For instance, now that the circumstances have changed, it's no longer appropriate for you to pay all of the bills. OP. Spot on. He wouldn't go to therapy. I have suggested it. Honestly, I don't worry too much about bills. Like, if we broke up, I would still have to pay the bills, and there will be approximately the same. He has offered to contribute more, to be fair. I'd say not the jerk, but your husband's ego is worrisome. I understand the stigma causes many men to believe their role is to be the breadwinner, but that does not excuse this behavior, nor the frivolous spending. You two definitely need to talk this out, possibly seek counseling to navigate this. There seems to be a lot of issues to unpack, but if he does not relax his ego a bit, it'll only get worse from here. Good luck, OP. Sorry the trip was ruined. Am I the jerk for canceling on a dog sitter and leaving a bad review, calling her unsafe? I, 28 female, have a large dog. She's almost 70 pounds and a mix of herding breeds with something bigger. Usually, if I have to go somewhere and can't bring her, there's a dog boarding facility that we like to bring her to. I had to leave for a week or so and wasn't able to get a spot there because it was such late notice. I looked around for dog sitters and there was one that seemed relatively good. She had mostly good reviews, and when I talked to her, she seemed to know what she was doing. She had another dog that my dog got along with very well, and she seemed like a good choice. Until on the second day I was gone, Wednesday, she sent me a picture of my dog who she was allowing her 6-year-old niece to lie on. Like my dog was sleeping and her head was on my dog's side. I texted her asking what she was doing, and she said that her niece loves the dog, and she's very good with her, and my dog loves her niece. I asked her please not to let her niece do that, and she said that she had the right to make the decisions she thought were the right ones. I told her that I was canceling the rest of the stay and drove home to pick up my dog. I was able to find someone else to take her who I know will not be unsafe. I left a bad review on her page. It was a 1-star review explaining what happened and saying that she was unsafe and handled the situation in an unprofessional manner. When I pulled up in her driveway, she and her niece were sitting on the porch with my dog not on a leash. She ran towards me when she saw my car, and the sitter made no attempt to stop my dog from running towards the road. I grabbed her and put her on a leash and went up to their porch to pay her for the 2 days. When I gave her the money, she was very rude. She said it was rude to cancel a stay during the stay itself, and that I was trying to ruin her business by making a big deal and leaving a bad review. She said it was common for people to let their kids around dogs, and I shouldn't have a dog I wouldn't want around kids. I left, so I didn't say anything I regretted and edited my review. When I got back to where I was staying, not until almost 11 because I had to drop the dog off and drive all the way back, She had texted me asking me to remove the review and pay her for the rest of the days. I told her I wasn't removing an honest review, but I'd pay her for the rest of the days when I got back. She started losing it on me and then posted on social media about her horrible experience with a client. She said she really needed the money now and all the business she could get. My coworker I'm traveling with thinks I should just remove the review and not make a big deal out of it. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. A dog sitter doesn't get to decide what appropriate care looks like. The dog's owner gets to make that decision. Mistakes happen, but once you asked her not to let the kid lie on your dog and she ignored you, she lost all rights to your business and a good review. Not the jerk. Keep the review up and don't pay for the days you didn't use. She did something dangerous. You asked her to stop. She refused, so you took your dog out of the situation. She should have stopped when you asked. Not the jerk. I've worked in dog boarding and dog training. This is hugely unprofessional and unsafe. You were right to pull your dog. Dogs who are being boarded do not always act predictably, so having unknown kids around large dogs highlights her lack of knowledge of the basic safety. I suspect she has other safety issues as well, especially since you didn't know the dog would be around kids. If this wasn't discussed, you could have given her a dog who wasn't safe around kids. Leave the review. People don't know how risky many pet sitters are, and they need to know. Must notify the manager to use the restroom. Before I get into this story, I realize there are jobs where notifying your boss when you leave your desk or post is a normal practice. However, that was not the case at this job. We had top secret clearances and handled collateral secret equipment and sensitive encryption key material on a regular basis. They assumed we were adults and generally treated us as such. Also, the fallout isn't juicy, but the story is funny to me. I was an airman in the Air Force working in ComSec. It's difficult to fully explain this job to people who have never done it, but the short version is glorified inventory management with penalties for messing up, including but not limited to prison time. We were working out of a temporary facility, and not all of us in ComSec could fit in the secure room, so we were spread out in multiple offices. Myself and my direct supervisor shared a small office, while my NCOIC manager was in a different one. One day, I did what all civilized humans do at least once a day and went to use the restroom. I came back. My supervisor said Sergeant Smith was looking for me, so I went to her office. Me: yes ma'am, you wanted to see me? Her: why weren't you at your desk? Me: I was just using the restroom, ma'am. Her: you need to be at your desk at all times, and when you're not, you need to let me know. Me: yes ma'am. At the time, besides email for computer communication, we were using Skype. It was common practice in that office to send quick messages to each other over Skype, so I made sure to let her know every time I left my desk using Skype, just as she had ordered me to. Every bathroom break, every drink from the water fountain. I even notified her I was leaving my desk to come talk to her after she told me to come talk to her. Every single time I left my desk, she was notified. Me: ma'am, I'm getting up from my desk to grab a Form 16 from the printer. Her: why are you using a printer in a different room? Me: I'm not, but I have to leave my desk to retrieve it. That was the last straw. She had enough. She told me to stop telling her when I leave my desk, except when I leave for lunch. Karen mother-in-law demands a key to my house. My wife and I recently moved into a new house because my wife wanted to be closer to her parents. I agreed as long as we had an understanding that this didn't mean they would just be stopping over unannounced and that we still had to maintain boundaries with them. We found a house about 30 minutes from where my in-laws live, and I figured that would give us enough of a buffer so that they would have to let us know whenever they wanted to stop by. My wife completely agreed to this before we moved. A couple of weeks after we moved in, my wife texted me while I was at work to tell me that her mom wanted to drop off some items for our kids at the house. I told her I was unable to leave work to let her in, but reminded her that we had hidden a spare key in case of emergencies and that we should tell her mom where it is. Mother-in-law found the key and got in, but I was already kind of frustrated that mother-in-law wasn't respecting our boundaries, but I figured I could always hide the key in a different spot later so that mother-in-law wouldn't keep using it. So that's what I did. I hid the key in a different location and showed my wife where it was in case she ever needed it. Not even 2 weeks later, my mother-in-law texted me while I was at work, saying that she was at our house again and couldn't find the spare key. I told her that I had moved it and that she would have to wait until either my wife or I come home for us to let her in. She kept texting me and trying to call me, but I didn't answer her calls and texted her that I was at work and was unable to help her. When I got home that night, my wife was upset with me that I wouldn't tell mother-in-law where the spare key was and tried to convince me that we should just give them a key so that it wouldn't be a hassle. I told her I didn't want them to have a key because mother-in-law has already proven she doesn't respect our boundaries. I also reminded my wife that she had agreed to all of this when we moved and that I was getting frustrated that both her and mother-in-law seemed to be disregarding my feelings on this so quickly after we moved in. I told her that the spare key was for emergencies, not for mother-in-law to use whenever she decided she wants to come to our house. My wife got kind of huffy and said that I was purposely trying to push her family away. I told her that I was trying to maintain boundaries that we had both agreed on. She had started making passive-aggressive comments to me about asking my permission to have her parents over. I told her this was exactly the kind of situation I was worried about before we moved, and her behavior is starting to make me regret agreeing to it. I told her that I agreed to move closer for her, and all I ask is that she respects some very simple boundaries, but she's acting like a child about it. Both her and mother-in-law now think I'm being a jerk, but I think they are steamrolling boundaries and hoping that I will cave. Karen expects me to pay for our date. She gets a rude awakening. So me, 26 male, and Kyla, 24 female, matched on a dating app. We messaged a few times, but nothing really happened from it. A couple months later, we see each other at a mutual friend's wedding. We talked most of the night and had a great time. I asked for Kyla's number from our mutual friend. We text for a few weeks and eventually make plans to meet. We have plans to meet for drinks, and she cancels last minute. Basically, 10 minutes before we're set to meet for dinner, Kyla tells me something came up and can't make it. I tell Kyla it's fine, and she starts taking longer to text, is short and less engaged. Eventually, Kyla quits responding and I move on. A week later, she calls to apologize and ask if we can meet up again. I agree, only because my friend's new wife convinced me. Date comes and it starts off rocky. Kyla showed up late saying traffic was bad. She brought up her past relationships constantly and it made me uncomfortable. She did apologize for canceling the first date, saying she was nervous. She also had multiple drinks and a shot. I only had 2 drinks. She was also on her phone, not the whole date, but enough for me to notice. Things weren't going well and the conversation was stiff. When the bill comes, they ask how we're doing it, and I say split it. Kyla looks at me and says, "I didn't actually bring my wallet." At this point, I'm just done and I say, "I'm sorry, but I'm not paying, and I don't think this is gonna work." I paid my bill and left while Kyla sat there. My friend's wife calls me that night, yelling at me, calling me a jerk. I guess Kyla's sister had to bring her some money. I've been called a jerk by some of the friend group. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. What kind of idiot doesn't bring any money at all to a date? It was really presumptuous of her to expect you to pay in the first place. Not bringing her wallet is just downright manipulation. Good for you for sticking to your guns. I'm 33, and from my experience in dating during my generation, whoever invites the other out is the one who is expected to pay. Expected is in quotes because it is not a requirement. Not only is OP not a jerk, she invited him out this time and should have paid herself if the check was not split. Not the jerk. Edit. The word expected was in quotes because I couldn't think of another word to use, but splitting is still the standard. If anyone pays for the whole thing, it's the inviter. This isn't required, but it is polite. That being said, it isn't impolite to split either. I think the asker being the one to pay is the polite thing, unless you're both broke college students, in which case it's fair to go Dutch, but you should tell them you're going Dutch. That's how it should go. Personally, I always assume that I'm paying for everything if I invite someone out. For example, my bestie and I love the theater, so if I suggest it, I pay for drinks and programs and stuff. If, on the other hand, I am invited somewhere, then I always assume I'm paying for myself, sometimes even when I've been told otherwise. There were a few times as a student that I was invited somewhere. I said I couldn't afford it, and the friends said they would cover it, only to pay for myself anyway because they couldn't actually afford it. Not the jerk. She toyed with you, blew you off last minute, stopped responding, and then she invited you out the second time, which is pretty common that either the check is split or the person who invited the other pays. On top of that, she was an unengaged and honestly unpleasant person to hang out with, so the least she could do is pay for her own crap. Also, odds are 100 to 1 that she deliberately left her wallet at home to try and guilt you into paying for her. Count your blessings that you dodged the Kyla bullet, and also, you should tell the friend's wife to butt out. You're the jerk. It honestly sounds like she's the one who dodged the bullet. Can't believe how many people are saying you were in the right here. If I ever went out with a guy and he expected me to pay, that would be the last time I ever went anywhere with him. It's called being a gentleman. It's simple. I'm a pretty hot chick. We're in high demand. At any given moment, I can find 100 guys on Tinder who will take me out and buy me dinner. You're a dude, which means unless you're a 9 or a 10 or rich, you're definitely not in high demand. At any given moment, you're lucky to find a girl on Tinder who will even let you take her out. So why should I ever have to pay for my own food or ticket or whatever when there's literally hundreds of dudes who will pay for it because I'm hot? Maybe you girls agreeing with OP are just not very attractive or something. Myself and all of my friends, who are also hot, never pay for anything on dates because that's one of the perks of being beautiful. Well, don't you sound pleasant? Sounds like she's really gonna make some lucky guy a happy husband one day. Or she'll be the death of him. Only time will tell. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Kyla? Please let us know. I wish Kyla had to wash dishes or something. That would have been perfect. Am I the jerk for exposing the true paternity of my friend's son? This sounds so bad, I know, and I am mortified, but I had no idea what I was doing. I, female 40, was invited to stop by and see one of my dearest friends from childhood at her mother's home yesterday evening. She lives overseas and hadn't been in the States for years, so she wanted me to stop by, even though they had other family visiting her mother as well. When I got there, my friend introduced me to a couple of her cousins and their husbands. At that point, all the kids were downstairs in the playroom, but she called her son to come up so I could meet him. Her son came and shook my hand, and I remarked how handsome he was. He has deep dimples and gorgeous hazel eyes with long lashes. Right behind him was a girl about the same age with the same eyes and dimples. I said to my friend, "Oh, I didn't know you had a daughter too. You two look like twins." The room was suddenly quiet. My friend's son corrected me and said the girl is his cousin, not his sister. My friend was shooting daggers at me with her eyes as if I had said something terrible, and her cousin, who I'd later find out was the mother of the girl, got up and left the room looking upset. Her husband followed her. Things became so weird and awkward from that moment on. I made an excuse to leave. Only this afternoon, when my friend's younger sister called, we were also friends in high school, did I find out why. So apparently, my friend had an affair with her cousin's husband when she lived with them briefly, and her son is the product of that affair. From what I was just told, she won't admit it, but everyone had suspected it because the older her son gets, the more he looks like the man. I honestly didn't notice the resemblance last night because the husband had just given me a quick wave from the far side of the room where he was watching a game. The reason the cousin, his wife, got upset and left the room is she suspected something for years, but everyone has worked hard at convincing her she's paranoid and seeing a resemblance that's not there. So I'm the jerk in this scenario now and ruined everyone's Christmas, or at least that's how it seems, because my friend won't return my calls or texts. ETA. The reason I made the leap to thinking the girl was my friend's daughter is she came upstairs with the son, while all the other kids stayed downstairs, and she was standing behind the son as if awaiting her turn to be introduced to me. Update. I found the cousin and her husband on Facebook this morning and got a good look at him and all the kids. He also has 2 sons with his wife. He has very unique and striking features, and the kids all look exactly like him, as does my friend's son. Any stranger off the street would immediately know they were his kids. What a mess. His poor wife, being told she was crazy all these years, and now probably feeling foolish as well as embarrassed and inexcusably betrayed. Not the jerk. Your friend, the cousin's husband, and everyone else are the jerks for gaslighting the cousin and convincing her that her suspicions were wrong. You didn't even know there had been an affair. You just made an innocent comment that happened to match what everyone else already knew and were trying to pretend didn't exist. This is on your friend and her cousin's husband and the rest of the family for trying to convince the cousin that she was crazy for her suspicions that they all already knew were correct. The only innocent people here were you, the cousin, and the kids. Not the jerk. If you don't want your affair to come to light, perhaps don't have one with a family member who is going to be around all the time. She has nobody to blame but herself. Not the jerk, but when they tell this story, they won't mention you by name. You are a big player in someone else's life-changing drama. Do try and remain in the background. Front and center isn't where you want to be in this story. OP, I plan to be nowhere in this story going forward. I only wanted to apologize for anything out of line I might have said. I didn't expect such a bombshell. I had been telling myself maybe they were upset that I was suggesting their daughter looked like a boy. That's all I could come up with. Anyway, I probably won't see any of them intentionally again. Coworker expects me to trade shifts because they're a parent. I, female 34, have been at my current job for almost a year now, but I've worked in the hotel industry for almost 10 years now. As a result, I have learned not to ever plan to have a holiday off. During this time, I have never had Christmas, Thanksgiving, or New Year's off. At holidays will almost always go to coworkers that have kids first. Well, onto my conundrum. My coworker, male 55, approached me about trading shifts for Christmas. I lucked out immensely this year and got the 23rd through the 25th off, mainly because another coworker has gone on vacation and won't be back until that time. My coworker approached me last night asking me if I had plans, which I do, planning to the parental units. They both had 2 rounds of their shots and I had 1. So I want to see them for one holiday at least. So I told him as such, and he then asked me if I was willing to trade shifts. I'm really not. He then said he should get it off because he has kids, although they are grown and he has seniority, which massively rubbed me the wrong way. So am I the jerk for telling my coworker no, that I wouldn't trade shifts so he can spend time with his family? Edit 1. Since some people have mentioned this in posts, this was posted as a preliminary schedule around a month ago. Was posted that if any changes or concerns needed to be addressed then. Coworker also told me that he thought Christmas was Sunday and not Saturday this year. A few people have said that I requested the day, which I didn't. I actually like working most holidays as I get holiday pay. This is like the second job that has it and all of my time working hotels. Edit 2. I hate doing edits, but things have changed a little. So talked to him tonight as I was relieving him from his shift. He apologized for the seniority crack. He said he was joking and realized at home that it was in bad taste. Not the jerk. Also, in the future, I wouldn't give an explanation. No, I can't trade shifts. It won't be possible. Rinse and repeat. He and his family can plan a makeup celebration whenever he's free, like everyone else who has to work on the holidays. Not the jerk. Agreed, it's none of his business if you have plans or not. Opening with that question is a ploy for him to determine if your need is greater than his. OP's response was what friendly coworkers do. Give additional info to a seemingly common and casual question, but with the anticipation of being asked to switch. A simple yes or why would be totally acceptable. Either make them tell you what they are up to or call them on their BS out of the gate. Not the jerk. I love how people without kids are marginalized around the holidays. Like, you can't possibly have a life or the right to simply sit home and enjoy the day off. The entitled jerk can buzz off. Enjoy the holidays with your parents. Life is too short. At an old job, a boss asked me what my plans were for the holidays. I knew he was fishing for coverage because everyone with kids wanted off and I was already approved. So I said that I was spending them with my husband and kids. I was newish to this job and kept to myself, so no one knew a lot about me. He went, "Oh," and then moved on. After the holidays, he asked me how my plans were. I said great and showed him a photo of me, my husband, and our 2 cats. He asked where the kids were and I pointed to the cats. OMG, the look on his face. Needless to say, I did not last long there, which was fine because I hated it anyway. Absolutely not the jerk. I have kids, and I absolutely hate it when people play the "but I have kids" angle. So what? We all have someone or something we would like to do. Jane's cat is just as important to her as my kids are to me, so get over yourself. Also, as a hotel GM who never takes holidays off, stand up for yourself. You deserve a few days off if you want them. You're the jerk. Every time I read one of these, I always say the same thing. Folks like myself, who have kids and families, our time spent with them is infinitely more important than whatever it is you were planning to do on your holiday off if you don't even have kids. My kids are more important than you getting to sit on the couch all day watching TV shows. Unfortunately, some people are just too stupid to realize that. I don't think you should be calling anyone stupid. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her coworker? Please let us know. If it weren't for the entitled parents, we wouldn't have half of these stories now, would we? But I really hope that last commenter takes a long walk off a short pier. Am I the jerk for refusing to go to my son and daughter-in-law's house for Christmas? My son got married a few years ago, and they had their first kid 9 months ago. I usually have people over to my house for Christmas, and my son said since they now have a baby, they will not be traveling anywhere on Christmas Day. That's fine, and I told him to have a nice Christmas. He invited me over, and I politely declined. I don't want to go to anyone's house on Christmas, which is why I fully respect them not wanting to come here. And she is inviting her family, and I don't want to have a big holiday with people I don't know well. Also, I want to invite certain people to my house who they do not know. My son snapped at me that that was selfish, and it's his wife's turn to host. I said we don't need to take turns. We can both do it every year since I'm not demanding they come to my house, and they can't force me to go to theirs. We ended the conversation okay, but he called me again and said certain family members won't go if I don't want to go, so I have to come. Honestly, I don't believe that. I believe they told him that, but I think it was just an excuse. He wants his cousins there, but I feel that my sister feels like I do. That why should we have to give up our holiday plans just because he wants to try something new? I told him I just really don't want to come. I want to be home with my husband and eat what I want. I don't like people, and he knows that. He got very angry and said no normal person would do this to their kid. I even offered a compromise. I will lie to my sister and say we really aren't doing anything for Christmas and not to expect a big meal. If she still doesn't want to go to his house, I think that proves she is lying. My son thinks I'm a jerk because I'm not willing to sacrifice this for him. I think he's being a controlling jerk, and while he and his wife have the right to do whatever they would like, they do not get to force that on me. Honestly, I don't see myself changing my plans, but he made me promise I would read the responses and get an unbiased opinion. Also, someone said to add and edit that my mother-in-law, who doesn't know my son well, comes over on Christmas, and I don't want to abandon her. Not the jerk. Reddit will take up arms to protect a daughter-in-law's wish to stay home for Christmas, and I think that's just fine. You deserve no less consideration, and you are being polite to boot. Your son is not being reasonable. Right? It's like open season on mother-in-laws here most days. Admittedly, a lot of them are jerks. But heaven forbid a mom doesn't want to do something for her grown kid. Not the jerk, OP. While you definitely could have handled that better, maybe find out why it matters so much to your son. But you have the right to spend Christmas how you want. Also, your son is grown and has the right to start his own traditions for his family too. While you may want to consider compromising your plans in order to maintain your relationship with him, like trade years you go to his house / stay at yours, you didn't demand he give up his plans to keep yours. Yeah, I'm not normally on mother-in-law's side, but this time I am, because she's not being demanding. She's not expecting them to come over to her house anyways. She's basically like, if that's what you'd rather do, that's fine. But I'm more comfortable in my own home, and I will stay here. And honestly, I feel similar, so I don't blame her. But she isn't being disrespectful. If anything, son and daughter-in-law may be if they dropped this change on her last minute. My grandfather did this for decades. He had very few days off work and wanted to spend Christmas in his own recliner. The compromise was everyone was welcome to stop in after church Christmas Eve for coffee and cake, etc. It's totally fine to say, I'm not visiting on the holiday. Not the jerk. You're right, it is absolutely your decision to go to your son's house or stay home. I will tell you as I read this, you come across as somewhat cold. Your son has a new baby, and he wants his mother to want to be with him and his new baby. My mother would rather walk on hot coals than miss that special time in memory with her kid and her grandkid. You do have the right to stay home, and after this, your son needs to respect that. That said, if I was him, I'd know going forward exactly where he or his kids stand in your priorities. Sometimes Christmas is about doing things unselfish or nice to make someone else happy. Certainly, I'd hope a mother would appreciate that. Not the jerk. But also, you kind of are a jerk, to be honest. Your position is reasonable, if this were just a friend or something, but this is your son, that you have been part of their life for what, 30 years? And every year, even when he got married, he gave in so that he could spend Christmas with you. He showed up at your house every year for Christmas. And the moment someone asks you to make a compromise, you're like, nah, son, the world doesn't work that way. I get everything I want, and I never make compromises for anyone. We can now just spend Christmas apart. So technically, sure, your position is not the jerk because you shouldn't be forced to do something, but it's not great either. I'm somewhere between everyone sucks here and you're the jerk. It sounds like you've hosted for years and that since Christmas means so much to you that you don't want to give up hosting. While that's your right, it puts your son and his new family in a bind. It's much easier to be in your own house with kids as they get older. They want to be able to do the Santa thing in their own home. This is where I think you're a bit of a jerk though. By continuing to host and your sister/his aunt wanting to come see you, he can't both host himself and see his family. It's either going to split the family or he's not going to have any of his family with him on Christmas. It is the motherly thing to do to offer to rotate or something and not hog it for yourself. If you don't, I'd fully expect your relationship to suffer. It sounds like you're okay with that though, which makes you a cruddy mom in my opinion. Am I the jerk for being mad that my son got sick right before Christmas? It has been a constant battle with my oldest, 12 male, to practice basic hygiene. Fingers constantly in his mouth and nose, twice daily reminders to brush his teeth, often met with lies which have to be exposed by checking the dryness of the toothbrush. 10-second showers during which soap is not used, pretending to wash his hands before meals. Lockdown made all of this worse. Masks constantly got lost because he doesn't like wearing them. Still no hand washing, fingers still perpetually in his mouth. Hand sanitizer wiped off on his coat. Our other kid is not like this at all. Not sure what happened with this one. I guess some people just have an aversion to cleanliness. As a result, he brings illness home multiple times a year, which usually doesn't bother me too much. At least we get the immunity boost. But this time was different. We moved across the country before lockdown hit. This Christmas was going to be our first chance to see family in actual years. Everyone got our shots, and we were planning a sizable get-together. My brother, both sets of my wife's parents, my mother, and my great-grandparents. And all this time, we kept reminding him, wash your hands and keep your fingers out of your mouth because we want your 90-year-old great-grandparents to be able to come visit. He started coughing a week ago. Never into his elbow, just out into the atmosphere. We got him tested and he came back negative. This was a relief for us, but even more so to him because he stopped even pretending to cover his mouth. This morning, my wife woke up with the cough. She can't even speak. We're going to give it until Monday before making the final decision, but it looks like the Christmas visit is off. I just got off the phone with the second set of disappointed relatives, and it hurts. What made me angry was his reaction. For the record, I have not blamed him for getting sick. Poor hygiene or not, you can't always control whether or not you'll contract an illness. But he knows it was him. He was sulking in his room, and I went to talk to him. He said, "Sorry I got mom sick," and with that, I just stopped giving a hoot. I said, "If you were sorry, you'd care enough to keep your fingers out of your mouth." Like I said, his younger brother has no problem with hand washing or hygiene in general. We've had him checked, and he does not appear to have any medical or psychological issues causing this. He's just gross, and I'm tired of it. Edit. In the interest of clarity, I did not raise my voice during any of this. Edit 2. Yes, he has seen a therapist, but based on the responses I'm getting, a second opinion seems to be in order. Edit 3. Many people have mentioned sensory seeking disorder. After reviewing the warning signs, this sounds like a match. We now plan to find a specialist for SPD. Thank you to everyone for your feedback. I did not know SPD existed prior to this thread. Reply. This sounds like sensory issues to me, not an aversion to cleanliness. Your sons aren't the same person, so stop comparing them. That's unhealthy and will just breed resentment. Have you asked him why he doesn't want to do these things? Have you tried troubleshooting? I can't stand the smell of hand sanitizer, so I wash my hands. I dislike the texture of liquid soap on my hands, so I use bar soap for hand washing. Dove soap dries out my skin in the shower, so I use this other stuff. I hate the noise and vibration of an electric toothbrush, so I use a manual one. Some people hate mint flavor, so they get bubblegum or fruit-flavored toothpaste, etc. He doesn't have to take a shower either. Baths exist. Get gum or something to replace fingers in his mouth. Use positive reinforcement. You're the jerk for not trying to work with him. Take him to a doctor or something, not just a therapist. Not the jerk for your emotions, but I do think what you said might have been out of line. Even if he doesn't have any mental or psych issues that might cause this, and I'd get his second opinion on a sensory processing disorder. At the very least, your boy has developed habits, and habits are hard to break, especially as a kid when you haven't been taught how to break habits. At this point, he can't help but put his fingers in his mouth because he does it unconsciously. Work with him on slowly breaking habits and positively rewarding small changes. You're the jerk First of all, some of those habits are a sign of executive functioning disorders and need positive reinforcement to work on good habits. Second, kids get sick, especially those attending school, even with masks. He feels bad. He even said as such. There's so much going around right now. I can't believe you are being mean to a kid about being sick. Not the jerk. When I was little, I also put my fingers in my mouth all the time. Picked my nose too. Mom told me to stop, kept doing it. Eventually, she whooped my butt to high heaven. Needless to say, I stopped sticking my fingers in my mouth. Mom would have laughed her butt off at anyone telling her to take me to a doctor over something like this. That's why the younger generation is doomed. Instead of taking accountability, getting a whooping, they just want to blame everything on some sort of disability. So sad how much people have gone downhill over the years, and it's only going to keep getting worse. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his son? Please let us know. You'd be surprised how many people never actually wash their hands. I'm only holding this mop because I'm not a big jerk, lady. To start out, I recognize this was completely my fault. I normally ask him before we go into a building. This time, I did not do this thing. Normally, he'll let me know if he's gotta go, but it was busy in there and neither of us were paying enough attention. He went to the bathroom. Fortunately, I was also with my partner, so I sent her to go find someone to help us clean it up. Partner returned with some paper towels and said a mop and bucket were on the way with the first employee. Conversation with the first employee as follows. Me. Here, let me help. I feel bad. While reaching for the mop. Employee 1. Oh, you don't have to. But they clearly did not want to be doing this thing, which was fair. Me. I truly do not mind. I worked in food service for years. Plus, absolutely my fault. Mop acquired. Employee awkwardly watched me mop before realizing they had forgotten the wet floor sign. They left to go retrieve it. At this point, I've passed the dog to my partner so I could handle the mop. Both my partner and dog are walking to the end of the aisle to get our cart. I'm then approached by the second employee. Conversation as follows. Paraphrased because it was like a week ago at this point. Employee 2, watching my partner walk out of the aisle, pulls down mask to quietly say, I don't know why employee 1 didn't just ask her to leave. It's not a service dog if it pees on the floor. Me. He's in training. I did not remove my mask and in fact leaned away because I'm immunocompromised. Employee 2. Oh, well that doesn't mean he gets to be out of control. Me. He's only 7 months old. I forgot to ask him to go before we came into the building. Employee 2. Oh, he's your dog? Proceeds to backpedal painfully with anecdotes about her chocolate lab who is so hyperactive and out of control. Me. Yes, he's my dog. Partner returns with dog and cart. Doggo is being extremely chill because he's actually the best boy who just needed to go. Employee 2. Oh, he's so mellow. Me. Yeah, he's a good boy. At this point, I fully turned away from employee 2 to pay attention to my good boy. Employee 1 returned eventually with the sign. Partner, doggo, and I returned to our shopping. I'm almost positive employee 2 thought I worked there because I was holding the mop. It certainly couldn't have been my maroon jeans, big baggy sweatshirt, brightly colored hair, and lack of name tag. At least I hope employee 2 thought I worked there. I can't imagine how uncomfortably other customers are when this person walks up to them and starts talking smack about random passersby. Reply. Kudos to you. One night in my grocery store, I heard a dog yapping. Strange since we don't allow pets, to my knowledge, and service dogs are trained not to bark, again, to my knowledge. Later, come to find out, the customer had a dog in his stroller that proceeded to let loose his bowels in a couple of spots. Even worse, other customers had pushed their carts through it and dragged it throughout many aisles. The person who had to clean it up was justifiably annoyed. Entitled sister wants to steal our grandma's apartment so her secret boyfriend can move in. My sister, mid-30s, is probably the worst case of entitled I've ever seen. She's always the victim, can do no wrong, and the world owes her for her imaginary suffering. This time, however, she's reached an entirely new level. She's recently confessed to our mom and I that she started dating someone behind her husband's back. And to be honest, her husband is also a ginormous dirtbag. But just leave the guy, okay? I don't think anyone deserves to be cheated on, and even though he totally sucks, an affair doesn't constitute as some kind of just punishment. It's messy and not worth it. Save everyone the extra heartache. Now, our grandma passed at the end of August, It hasn't even been a month since she's passed, and since she was ill, we did have time to discuss some things and make arrangements for others. She lived in an apartment that's attached to our mom's house, and we had talked about me moving into it after Grandma passed, and everyone thought it was a good idea because my grandma had things like no-slip railings, kitchen tools and gadgets for arthritic hands, etc., and I also am disabled and could benefit from the same equipment. Come to find out, my crappy sister thinks it'd be a cool idea to have her secret boyfriend move into our mom's property instead, so she can use our mom as some kind of cover for what she's doing, and I am absolutely repulsed and livid. We were all just starting to let my sister come around again because after Grandma passed, she seemed like it had really affected her and she was really turning over a new leaf. But it's all because she wants her boyfriend to move in. I don't think anyone is going to fly with the idea. I just can't believe that she even thought it would be a viable option and something that she could even suggest to us. Why does she just assume that we'll help her cheat on her husband? I want no part of it. I will not be an accomplice. Also, her justification for suggesting he move in is because OP doesn't seem to be in much of a rush to get up there. Like, yeah, I'm the one who discovered Grandma there less than a month ago. Sorry I haven't been sorting through all of her belongings and getting them ready to be rehomed or donated. I wish I could keep every trace of her, and the fact that I have to get rid of anything at all hurts, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I haven't done it yet, but maybe try having a little empathy. I've decided that I'm kicking my sister out of my life again. Each time I think she's capable of changing, she shows that she's still the same horrible, selfish person, and I'm done falling for the charade. Have fun with your inevitable divorce proceedings. Good luck explaining all of this BS to your kids too. Thanks for reading if you read. Still can't believe my sister is not only a real human being who exists, but we share the same gene pool. Also, I'm 24 years old, so I've had a long time to come to terms with that fact. Still can't. My brother's girlfriend is scamming him. My brother, 32 male, and I, 29 female, are very close. We started a business together a few years ago, and it's going far better than we expected. As a consequence, he makes a lot of money. 1 year ago, he met a 28-year-old girl. She told him she was a high-paid executive in a famous company. He told me he wanted to date a woman with ambition and a successful career because he wanted them to be on an equal step. He fell deeply in love with her. I met her not long after, and she was funny and sweet, so we got along great. My brother moved in with her, but just before it happened, she said she was sick and had to quit her job. After that, he paid for every health appointment to try and diagnose her because she has no savings. He also is the only provider of their house since she doesn't work anymore. She loves to buy expensive items with his card. It has been going on for 7 months, and the doctor said they couldn't find anything. These past few months, I kept thinking about how it's weird she has no savings, even though she's supposed to have had a big salary, and he never met anybody from her work. There's no medical proof that she is sick. Anyway, they went to my house for dinner, and she told me she was still feeling too ill to work. 20 minutes later, she was talking about the new coat she bought with his money, and I made a comment about how she wasn't too sick to shop. My brother was very upset and got up to talk to me. I told him my concern that she was a scammer, and he said I was a jerk for insulting her and thinking she didn't love him. She left, and he refuses to talk to me anymore. I don't know if I should apologize. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. And make sure you have all the details about ownership of your business in writing, with nothing left open to interpretation. If she's scamming him, you're at risk because of the joint business. I would totally run a background check on her. I wouldn't normally advocate for this, but the circumstances dictate that this should probably be done. Honestly, in less than a day, he'd have her work history, criminal background, education, former residences, etc. Not the jerk. Your brother is just not ready to face the truth about her, and he's not asking any questions. It worries me that you are in a business together. You should find a way to protect your interests because your brother may not see the light when it comes to this woman. Please review any contracts, insurance, or other legal documents the business currently has. What would happen if your brother went into debt? High credit card bills, etc. How would that impact the business? Could he somehow sell or mortgage the business if he went into debt? Could he take out a loan using the business as collateral? If he did this, would you even know about it? Would you personally be responsible for these loans or business debt? You may want to talk to an attorney that specializes in business law and determine what may be needed to protect you and the business. You're the jerk. You're conflating multiple unrelated things, none of which make you look good. 1. You don't actually seem to have any evidence that she didn't have the job she said she did. Your only proof is that she doesn't have any savings and that she got sick. Lots of people make huge salaries and have no savings to show for it. It doesn't make them liars, just bad with money. And people are allowed to stop working because they become disabled and can no longer do their jobs. It's a real thing. It happens to many, many, many people, unfortunately. 2. Her doctors may not have found out what's making her sick yet, but that doesn't make her less ill. Life is not a TV show where people get easily diagnosed in 60 minutes, and doctors vow not to sleep until they have an answer. Many, many serious illnesses can take years to diagnose. I was sick for 2 full years and had countless tests come back fine because my lifelong, debilitating, incurable neuroimmune system doesn't have clear markers or a simple diagnostic test. There are millions of people like me who are incredibly ill and not easily diagnosed. After years of involvement in the disability and chronic illness community, I can tell you that in fact, taking a long time to be diagnosed is more common than not. 3. The only remotely valid complaint you seem to have here that you have any actual evidence for beyond your sisterly instincts is that she spends a lot of your brother's money, which is none of your business. Your brother is a grown man who has chosen to support the woman he loves through a difficult time. If he feels taken advantage of, he'll say so. You're infantilizing him, and it's gross. And by the way, you would be the jerk alone for your "she's not too sick to shop" comment. Buying something online or even going to a store for a short while does not require anywhere near the same expenditure of energy or strength as carrying even a part-time job. Sick and disabled people are allowed to have lives and do normal things, like shop. We don't exist in some sort of dollhouse sitting still 24/7. We're human beings with needs just like everyone else. Just because a person can do one thing doesn't mean that they can do every completely unrelated thing that you think they should. Not the jerk. Your brother sounds like the typical pushover. Guys like him were made to be taken advantage of by women. It's just too bad he's your business partner. I'd do anything you can to get 100% ownership of that business and kick him to the curb. She's going to financially ruin him, and you don't want any part of it. Well, what do you think? Is OB a jerk or not? Please let us know. Aware would be a more fitting term. Karen harasses me and takes my wallet when I tell her I have ASD. Backstory. I have ASD, so I tend to act weird under stress, but anyone who knows me understands it's normal. It was late September when this happened, so the story isn't quite fresh out of the oven. We've got entitled mom, we've got the kid, we've got me, and nice guy. Now for the story. I'm walking to my bus stop because I just finished school for the day when I spot entitled mom waiting by the stop and her kid, who is about 9 or 10, looking at me. I think nothing of it and I stand by the bus stop waiting for the bus. A few minutes go by and I go on my phone because the bus is taking forever. Normally, whenever I'm waiting for a while, I shake one of my hands just to keep myself from being still. So while I'm waiting, I'm playing Candy Crush with my right hand and shaking my left hand. I hear the kid walk towards me, so I lift my head up so he knows I'm paying attention. Here's the exchange. Kid. Hi. Me. Hello. Did you need something? Why are you doing that? For a second, I didn't register what he said, but then I got what he was referring to. Me. Oh, I usually do this when I'm waiting for something and it's taking a while. Sort of something to keep my mind off waiting, you know? The kid. Oh. I see the kid go back to entitled mom, and I go back to doing what I was doing. I catch a bit of the conversation from entitled mom and her kid, but I try not to eavesdrop. But they were talking loudly, so it was impossible. Entitled mom. Did you ask him why he's doing that with his hand? Kid. Yeah, he says it's just something he likes to do when he's waiting. Entitled mom. He doesn't have to do that. I'll go talk to him. She walks up to me and she starts to say something, but I turn away from her because I've seen enough stories to know where this is going. She didn't like this one bit. Excuse me. Me. What? Entitled mom. My son told me you shake your hand when you wait. Me. When I'm under stress also. My hand was still shaking. Well, stop it. You're making me very uncomfortable, and I don't feel safe. Both me and the kid look at entitled mom dumbfounded. Me. Excuse me? You heard what I said. Now stop it. Me. Now slightly annoyed. I have ASD, ma'am. So if you would please leave me alone, I would really appreciate it. At this point, people are watching us. Entitled mom. I bet you don't even have ASD. You're probably just faking it. This is the point I snapped. I pulled up an article on the news that has a bunch of kids, including me, sharing our experience with ASD. Me. See any similarities? Entitled mom turns ghost white. Then she shakes it off by shoving me on the ground. Me. What the heck was that for? What she says next will never leave my brain. You're a liar. Stop scaring my son. Karma incoming. Nice guy. Ma'am, what is your problem? My problem? He was assaulting me and trying to get my purse. Nice guy. I'm gonna stop you right there. He pulls out his phone, which had a video of her clearly harassing me and shoving me on the ground. Unless you want this to go to the police, I suggest you stop. Me to the nice guy. Thanks. Nice guy turning to help me up. No problem. I can't stand people like her. Entitled mom tries to run off with her kid, who was sitting there in shock, but several people quickly grabbed her and kept her in place. The police arrive, and nice guy tells them what happened and showed them the video. They arrested the woman for assault and theft. I didn't realize it, but the jerk had knocked my wallet out of my grasp and tried to run off with it. They ask if I want to press charges, and I say no. But nice guy asked if he could because he could see that I wasn't in the mood for it. After that, I got no word from anyone involved, which I am more than okay with. I wish this didn't happen to me at all. Reply. Press charges. If you don't, they think they can keep doing it. Hit them with the legal book for the love of God. It's the only way they learn, if at all. No one ever presses charges, and they all seem to wear it as a badge of pride or mercy, and not enabling their attacker for whatever reason. Are we really all so conditioned not to cause a fuss? I am the most anxious person ever. I once worked 3 extra hours because my boss forgot to relieve me, and I was uncomfortable calling her. She was very apologetic about it and paid me time and a half for the time, even though it was not technically overtime. She was just frazzled and totally blanked that she had not come to relieve me yet. I am a pushover, in other words. But you'd better believe I'd be pressing charges. It would be difficult for me, but it's for the good of more than just myself and keeps the entitlement somewhat curbed, or at least creates a paper trail. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit for my sister? I'm 18, female, still in high school, pertinent to the story. Paralyzed, also pertinent. My mom is 45, my sister is 28 and has 3 boys, ages 10, 6, and 3. 4 years ago, I was in an accident and came out paralyzed from the waist down. It has been heck having to learn a new way of life, but I haven't let that stop me. I'm going to be going to a college out of state next year and graduating in the top 10% of my school if things continue as they are. The one major thing that is a complete bummer out of all of this, other than the obvious, is that my mom thinks that I'm now a free babysitter for whenever one of my older brothers or sisters needs one. She never consults me on these and expects me to drop plans at the drop of a hat. This past Monday, I told my parents about a Christmas movie extravaganza sleepover my friend has been planning. It's gonna be 3 of us, and we were planning on making brownies, cookies, watching really cheesy Christmas-themed romantic movies, and just girl stuff. It was on Saturday, yesterday, and my parents said they had no problem with it. Yesterday arrived, and I'm just about to roll out when my mom comes and says my sister is on her way with her 3 boys. Apparently, she asked mom if I could babysit the other day, and she said yes. Didn't even bother telling me about it. I said heck no, because I already have plans. We fought, and mom ended up storming off because this one time I wasn't backing down. I took the time and left, turning my phone off when I got into my friend's car. Today when I got home, I got called an immature jerk basically. My sister was left without anyone to watch the kids during her husband's work Christmas party. I went back on my word that I didn't make. Mom told me that I should be grateful she gives me something to look forward to, babysitting, because I have no real social life being paralyzed. I just went to my room and cried. But now I'm wondering, am I the jerk like they said I am because I refused to babysit and then left my sister in the lurch? Edit to add an update. So I'm not going into a whole lot of detail on here right now, but plans are being put into motion for me to move in with my friend and her family. I made this choice after mom came in and berated me again for standing up for myself. She said that because I said I would originally, a few years back, I had no life and no confidence, so I agreed to babysitting a few times. Then it was like I had no choice, that I asked for this. Then she said I'm to do what she says while living under her roof. Tomorrow she has work, and hopefully by tomorrow evening, I will not be living under her roof. I'm sure this won't be the last time I hear from her though. For those who have mentioned this and will ask if I don't answer, yes, I have the originals to my important documents, and she does not have access to my money. She has encouraged my siblings, though my sister is the only one this rude. My dad, well, he doesn't like rocking the boat, and to be honest, in a way, I don't blame him. She yells at him more than me. Not the jerk. Your family members all suck. If your mom is that concerned about your sister having a babysitter, she can watch the kids herself. OP. She refuses to. The 10-year-old is a major brat and not anywhere close to a good kid. So she refuses to, but makes you watch the brat? Your mom is a major jerk. Also, communicate directly with your siblings. It sounds like your mom is miscommunicating and sowing discord between you by making promises in your name. Your siblings may honestly think that you enjoy the babysitting if that's what your mother told them. Mom doesn't feel up to babysitting herself, but the paralyzed daughter can handle it instead? Wow. The capper was mom saying OP should be grateful as she has no social life, but clearly OP does have friends and a social life, as that's what she was doing that night. We don't know why OP's mother does this. Is she a doormat for her other kids? Resentful of the care OP may have needed when she was first disabled? Maybe she's guilty. Was mother driving in the accident and misdirecting guilt to OP, or what? Doesn't matter. She's trying to hold OP back from a real life with friends, and I fear that going away to college next year may be sabotaged. OP needs to get this all out in the open with siblings now. They need to call OP to make babysitting arrangements, and nothing mother agrees to is binding OP, etc. As for mother and father, OP needs to have a serious discussion with mom and dad and tell them you have a life. You have an even better life planned next year, and you are not the family babysitter, and expect them to respect you. Obviously not the jerk. Good luck. Not the jerk, OP. And please let me say that I am so impressed and proud of you and all your accomplishments. I know I'm some random internet stranger, but I have 3 kiddos, and I hope and pray when they are 18, they can say they are in the top 10% of their class, and that their idea of fun is sharing time with their friends, watching cheesy movies at a slumber party. If your parents don't tell you how amazing you are, then it is my honor to do so. You are not the jerk, and your family needs a serious reality check as to who you are and what you're capable of. 10 years from now, I see you, in my imagination of course, being successful at your dream job, and or having your own fabulous family, or really whatever you choose to do. Don't let up, OP. Go live your dreams. I gave my mother an ultimatum to choose between my brother or me. I moved in with my mom after she got too sick to help her. 3 months later, she told me my brother was moving in to help too. I was less than enthusiastic, as my brother has always bullied and taken advantage of me, and my mom's enablement of that sours our relationship. I was basically treated like I was a bad person for not believing my brother has magically become a different person in adulthood. My mom decided a compromise was to have him sign an agreement of his duties and our expectations for the shared living spaces, as well as what we all would be contributing to for the household finances. I'm not trying to turn this into a pity party, but essentially, he has not lived up to a single item once. He has never taken out the trash. It's always later. They joke about it. He makes my life here miserable and filthy. He's always introducing drama and problems. Well, I found out my mom has needed my financial help more lately because he hasn't contributed a single dollar towards food or utilities while driving both up, and she's been trying to cover up for him. So I'm subsidizing him treating me like a house elf, and he won't help her with her appointments or clean up after himself, let alone contribute to chores. We had a fight this morning because he left wet clothes in the washer, so I had to move them to the dryer, like always, to wash my mom's sheets, and then I had to move them out of the dryer because he wouldn't come down to get them. He was upset I left them dumped back in his laundry basket and said I should have folded them so they wouldn't wrinkle. He never folds his clothes, and they're always wrinkled. He was demanding I iron his clothes, and my mom was trying to say she would do it for him, and I just lost it. But it was more like the straw that broke my back while they're trying to focus on it as a single overreaction. He's the crappiest person I've ever known. I told her it's him or me. I'm moving out ASAP if she doesn't give him a deadline to move out. I said I'd still go to her appointments and stuff like that, but I won't live with her. My mom is hysterically upset and saying he can't take care of her if she's sick at night, or she doesn't understand how I can be so cruel to ask her to choose between her kids, but I feel like she already did a long time ago. I feel guilty to put her through this, but I also feel like this is not my fault, and I have to maintain my own sanity. I feel like crap, but I don't know what else to do. I clean the house to wake up to it trashed every morning, and lately I've been wishing I wouldn't wake up. Not the jerk. She's made it clear she favors your brother while knowing he can't actually care for her. Let her lie in the bed she's made or hire home help. She got you to move in with her to take care of her and then invited your brother to move in for you to take care of him too. You said you wouldn't and she lied to you and did it anyway. OP, she knew deep down that she was inviting him in for you to take care of him. She knew. She thought she had you over a barrel because she needs your help. She does not have you over a barrel. When you move out, cut contact for a while. Otherwise, you'll be paying for 2 separate households when she starts to complain about not having enough money. And I think you'll find that the second the cash cow goes no contact, suddenly your brother will find the wherewithal to take your mother in and get her on the government program she should already be on. Not the jerk. This has gone on far too long. There is no impetus for your brother to change, so he won't. Your mother is wrong that he can't take care of her at night. More likely, she won't admit to you nor to herself that he won't. As you rightly pointed out, she's made her choice. You've tried to help her. She squandered that opportunity. Now it's time to help yourself. Move out. Skip the ultimatum. They can and will figure this out when they have no other options. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for taking my daughter shopping when she was supposed to be punished? My 14-year-old daughter, Katie, is very talented at math. She's already the best at it in her school despite not being into her older years. She entered her exams early and scored full marks. She's now studying higher-level math stuff, and her teachers have given her university-level material to get her teeth into. It's probably her biggest passion in life. Katie also attends a math club which she enjoys, and she's already the most talented member. A couple of months ago, this new boy joined the club. I'll call him Tommy, and she talks about him a lot. She obviously has a crush on him. A few weeks back, the trainer at the math club told me that she had gotten complaints from parents because some of the other girls have received texts from Katie demanding they stay away from Tommy and containing a lot of really mean stuff. As soon as I found this out, I made it clear that it was to stop. I even confiscated her phone. Unfortunately, the texts continued as soon as she got her phone back. In fact, they got even more extreme, and as a result, the club decided to exclude Katie today. Katie was crying in the car, not just because her math is her passion, but also because she thinks she loves this boy and doesn't want to be away from him. He's blocked her on everything due to what's happened. While she obviously hasn't behaved well, it hurts seeing her so upset. She loves clothes, so I thought I'd treat her to a girly day to cheer her up. We did some shopping and bought her some new dresses, and then I took her to a salon to get her hair done. Katie is still pretty down, but she enjoyed the day and said it cheered her up. I told my husband what happened, and he was livid. He said shopping was the last thing we should have been doing, and that I should have brought her home immediately, confiscated her phone, and put her in her room to think about what she had done. Look, as awful as what she's done is, she's a teenager who's both had her heart broken and had her biggest passion taken away from her on the same day. We can think about punishments later on. You're the jerk. Your daughter is suffering the consequences of her inappropriate and creepy behavior. To simply consider punishments later, you should have taken her home and let her think about what happened. Instead, you rewarded her. You're the jerk. She didn't learn her lesson the first time, so she did it again, and you rewarded her behavior. Having a crush is no excuse for the behavior she has shown. She needs to understand that actions have consequences. Even though she is great at math, that is no excuse for being an aggressively jealous human being. This girl of yours needs boundaries, and at 14, she's old enough to understand them. If she was older, this would be considered stalking. Time to sit her down, return the dresses, and step up like she needs you to do. You're the jerk. Your daughter did not need to be cheered up from dealing with the logical consequences of her incredibly inappropriate actions. Good parenting does not mean preventing your kid from ever feeling negative emotions. It means helping them to process their emotions in a healthy way. She does not need a shopping trip. She needs therapy and strict supervision of her technology use. She was harassing the other members of the club as a result of her unwarranted feelings of ownership over another member, who has to block her from social media in order to protect his privacy. That's why she had her crush and greatest passion taken away from her. Frankly, you're lucky the consequences weren't worse. This behavior is grounds for a suspension or being expelled. Everyone else wants the meeting first thing in the morning? Okay. So this story is being stolen from my girlfriend. She works at a company that provides warehousing, product prep, and direct-to-consumer services to other companies. She works in their office dealing directly with several key accounts, but also has a few lines that she manages. The lines are responsible for prepping and building shipments. The line workers will gather in the morning and wait for their daily assignments, as well as any direct-to-consumer orders from my girlfriend. This detail is important. The other office workers help manage some accounts, but do not manage the lines or direct-to-consumer orders, nor do they know how to. She comes into work one day and finds out they have a new director, and he wants to start organizing, streamlining, etc. You know, the things the new important person does to make it look like he's giving it his all. His first order of business is to have a mandatory daily meeting at 8 a.m. with everyone in the office that will take no longer than 15 minutes. My girlfriend requests that the meeting start at 9 a.m. instead, as the warehouse workers will be doing nothing but waiting around for their assignments otherwise. The director, probably not wanting to look like he's playing favorites on his first day, puts this to a vote. And surprise, the other people want to start first thing in the morning, as they have nothing else to do at that time. So my girlfriend says, okay, if they want to start first thing in the morning, that's no problem. Next day, the meeting begins as soon as everyone arrives, and as they gather and the director begins talking, they hear the various lines start calling my girlfriend's name over the radio in the distance. 5 minutes go by, and now people begin wandering into the office. 10 minutes and a small group forms. 15 minutes, and people are coming and going, patiently waiting for her, and she is ferociously tapping her pen on a clipboard. At this point, the director pipes up with a less than sincere, "Well, you look rather anxious, so if you have someplace to be, you can go if we're keeping you." She responds with a candid and rushed, "Thank you so much," and runs away to take care of her lines and process consumer orders. The new director, after this conversation, spoke with the owner of the company. To his credit, the director later that day sought out my girlfriend and recapped what she missed at this meeting, which ultimately ran for over 45 minutes. He also explained that the owner of the company informed him that she has the most responsibility of anyone in the office, generally can be relied on for anything, and is hands down his best employee. The meeting is now at 9 a.m. Reply: I've had 7 meetings just to set up one meeting. First, we had to set the date of the meeting, so we had a meeting for that. Then we had to set the time, so we had a meeting for that. We had a third meeting just to decide who should be at the meeting. We had another meeting about the date and time because some dates worked better for some people. And now that there were some other people who were cut out in the third meeting, we could move it to a day that people liked better. We had a meeting to determine if there would be a pre-meeting meeting and whether or not that meeting would have lunch. We had an agenda and a battle plan meeting to determine what would be discussed and who would be allowed to speak at the meeting. We had the pre-meeting meeting 2 hours before the meeting so people could get lunch afterwards to iron out the details of what would be said and how we would say it at the meeting. Then we finally had the meeting. Despite the project director's multiple meetings, he had never actually covered the subject matter, and he looked horrible in front of our funding partners because he was bad at his job. Am I the jerk for telling brother-in-law and sister-in-law that their lifestyle is what made them bankrupt? My brother-in-law and sister-in-law, hubby's brother and wife, have always had a problem of keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. Nobody can ever have anything better or newer than them. While it's never really bothered any of us, it's just something that is there and has become a family joke. They do this to everyone and have even done it to hubby and myself. Up to a certain point, this has never been a problem, but well, times have changed and now that has caught up with them. He told me that brother-in-law called and asked for money because they were pretty behind on house and car payments and they were about to start losing things to repossession. I asked how this was possible when they were still doing all the things that they have been doing. He said that they never recovered from last year when they lost their jobs and never took lower paying positions, and they never did anything to accommodate to their new salaries. We have the money to help them out, but it would have meant that we would have had to put off some things that we had planned for 2021. Hubby said that something didn't feel right and called his brother to ask them to send over all their bills, expenses, and pay stubs so that we could look at it and see what we could do to help, which they did reluctantly. I ran the numbers 4 different ways, and no matter how I ran it, there was no way for me to be able to find how they could pull out of this, and in all honesty, they are very much bankrupt. The long story short of it is that they are filing bankruptcy next month and will be moving in with us, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and 3 kids. Our house will be maxed out. Here is where I might be the jerk. In order to maintain their appearance, hubby and I are the only ones who know. Then tonight, we had dinner with the family, and we heard brother-in-law and sister-in-law talking about the neighbors and how they are going on vacation in a couple of weeks, and next year they are going to do something. Hubby and I listened in on this for a few minutes, and they kept going, and I got upset and went storming into the living room asking what the heck they were thinking. First it was, how dare I leak this information without their approval? Then it was basically, they said that they had a lifestyle that they have become accustomed to, and once this bankruptcy was complete, then they would have extra money to move on with their life, and it's not fair to them or their kids to have to completely change. I reminded them that it was their lifestyle that is exactly what put them into bankruptcy, and they need to learn to better manage their money. So, am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law and sister-in-law that their lifestyle is what put them into bankruptcy? Edit due to character limit. To tie up any questions, when brother-in-law and sister-in-law and family move in, they're going to be living with us rent-free and will just have to cover their personal expenses. This is to help them get money saved up so that they will be able to find a place of their own. Hubby and I are planning on getting new cars next year. We were originally going to use our cars for trade-ins, but now we are going to just sign our cars over to them and put extra money down for a down payment on our cars. Hopefully in a year, maybe less, they will be able to move into their own place. They will be moving the kids' college funds into other people's names so that it will not be touched in the bankruptcy. Edit 2. Hello everyone. So first, I want to thank you all for your comments and advice. I want to assure you that I have read all and have taken all into consideration. This was extremely eye-opening. When hubby and I made the decision to do this, it was made in a hurry, and we admit that we didn't completely think the whole thing through. Thanks to all of you, we saw all of the red flags, and in all honesty, we both were feeling the same way, just not sure how to talk to each other. So basically what it comes down to is that brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and family are not moving in and are not getting our cars. After last night's dinner conversation, both of us saw how much they don't think this is a serious matter. And if that's the case, then they are never going to take us seriously living with us. They need to figure this out on their own. We had a Zoom meeting this morning with hubby's other sibling, and they are all telling us the same thing. Not to let them move in with us, and not to let them have our cars. They all agree that they need to hit rock bottom as well. They still have some time before all of this goes through, so they have time to save up for a place that they can move into and maybe find a way to get different cars. I put together a budget that will work for them. I have resources that will help with different things as well. I made them a budget spreadsheet like what we use for our finances. I have a friend of mine who is going to try and find a place that they will be able to rent while they come through the worst of it all. Taking any of them in is an absolute last resort. I feel horrible for their kids because they're going to miss out on a lot because of this. They're most likely going to lose their college funds. They never did anything wrong, but they are going to have to pay for their parents' mistakes. If they were not underwater with their house, they could have sold it and just paid off a lot of the debt with that profit. But at this point, nothing is going to help. Had they not lost their jobs last year, they would have been okay. Both at the time had high executive level jobs that afforded them to do all of the things that they had done. But their new jobs and salaries just don't have that much power at this point to pull them out of it. We are going to have to get their parents involved in this, which both are in their 80s. They might actually have to get an advance on their inheritance to get moved. I don't know. Hubby and I feel that we have done more than what we should have done. So now it's up to them. Edit 3. About the college funds. They're just basic savings accounts. All 3 kids are not at an age where they can hold their own bank accounts without a parent signature. So while they have their names on the accounts, brother-in-law and sister-in-law are also on the accounts. So they are going to lose out no matter what. I yelled at my mom that I hate Harry Potter and to let me live my own life. As my title suggests, my mom is a huge Harry Potter nut. She and my dad actually met in a Harry Potter IRC, like Discord but for old people. In the early 2000s, got married and had kids, and from day one decided to embarrass us for life by naming us after some Harry Potter and Star Wars characters. It's honestly been horrible. I have a stupid name, and since we were little, my parents have forced stuff like Harry Potter, Star Wars, Marvel movies, etc. down our throats. Everything is about dragons and magic and blah blah blah. I'm so sick of it. Every birthday, every holiday, everything is just organized around fandom. So just like every Christmas, the days leading up to Christmas, we have to sit down every night and watch Harry Potter movies. It's so boring. I can usually get away with knitting or drawing on my iPad during this, but this year my mom was like, let's just have a technology and distraction-free night every night. I arranged to go over to my friend Missy's house instead for like 2 nights. Missy's family is normal and likes things a normal amount. My mom got really mad and started talking about how it's a family tradition and how I'm basically rejecting her, and went on her whole thing about how you wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Harry Potter. I finally had it and just yelled, Nobody cares that you were a big name in the Harry Potter fan club. I don't like Harry Potter. I don't like Star Wars. I hate Marvel movies. They're all so boring. Please, just let me have my own interests. I couldn't help it. I started crying because I was just so frustrated because everything always has to be Harry Potter this and Star Wars that. And now that we're all older, they started doing Game of Thrones. Everything is centered around some kind of movie or TV show or book series. Just once, I want my family to band around something that doesn't have to do with media or these nerdy things. We live in Utah, where we have like 5 national parks, and even though I ask every year for my birthday, I've never been to Arches. Well, my sister called me, saying that my mom was angry and to just come home and to stop with the theatrics. I told her I'm sick of having all this old nerd stuff crammed down my throat, and just once I want to have a normal time watching normal Christmas movies and not having to pause for lightsaber battles. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. And your post is a great warning for all those people still thinking about naming their kid Anakin or Khaleesi. You're allowed to have your own interests, and your parents aren't making life easier by forcing things they like on you. Not the jerk. Your reaction makes sense. It's 100% understandable. Extreme role players like this can be just as toxic as parents that micromanage their kids. If you feel like you're not allowed to have your own interests or hobbies or alone time, you should be able to say so. I happen to be extremely nerdy. My mom tried to force me to become a dancer. I sucked. Not kidding, I really sucked. Couldn't even do the splits, but she pressured me to go until the teacher stepped in and told her how miserable I was. She spent thousands each year on costumes, gas, hair, makeup. We spent endless hours traveling in hot buses for competitions. I literally had to stop at age 12 because I physically could not do what the other dancers could. I wasn't flexible, thank God. And above all, I wasn't interested. I felt so guilty because so many girls in my class at school loved dancing. They would have loved to have a mom that was willing to spend big bucks to fly them to cheer competition, ballet, tap, hip-hop, skating, but it just wasn't for me. I was tired and moody 24/7. I can't even begin to describe how depressed it made me. I wanted to read manga. I did not want to spend 10 hours a week in 2 different dance studios. I didn't understand why my mom couldn't see that. Still don't. I completely understand. Your parents are not providing an inclusive environment, and it's not fair. I think you should try to sit them down and have a serious conversation about how you feel. Don't say you hate them. Say you want to share your hobbies with them. Parents should not expect their kids to be clones of them. Not the jerk. The sentence, Missy's family likes things a normal amount, really jumped out to me. It's a shame that in their obsession and absorption in their fandom, they've really ruined some cool books and movies and stuff for you and your siblings. Lots of people enjoy these things without making them their whole life. Also, I'm being petty here, but watching movies is not a technology-free night. Play a board game or something. OP. But that's the thing. My siblings are all okay with all of it because they love all that stuff. I'm the odd one out, and they didn't ruin them all for me. I didn't like any of it to begin with. Like, they aren't cool to me. They're just boring snooze fests. Like, whoop-de-doo, I'm the chosen one. But I'm a sad little orphan boy with a charming cast of characters. Am I talking about Harry Potter or Star Wars? Who knows? They're both the exact same story. I'm going to politely and respectfully ask each of you to stop thinking you're going to be the first to try to explain the hero's journey to me. Every other person already rushed to the front of the line to do it first. Okay, your parents are the jerks for forcing their hobbies on you, but they are not the same exact story, and that is a hill I'm willing to die on. OP. This is such a good example of what they do. They'll be all, time for the Chamber of Secrets, and I'm like, no, I don't want to watch Harry Potter punch the snake again. And they're like, but he didn't punch the snake, he XYZ. And it's like, wow, same thing, who cares, it's a movie. Everyone sucks here. Your parents should definitely understand that you are old enough to have interests separate from their own, but you are absolutely a jerk about it. I can't believe it's taken me this long to find this comment. OP is a huge jerk. They give me super edgy, unique, and different vibes. Forget the mainstream type of person. I'd love to have parents right now who share their interests with me. Sounds like OP doesn't at all even attempt to share interests with them because they're an edgy, bratty teenager. They're going to miss this when their parents are gone. Everyone sucks here. Parents shouldn't give kids stupid names and should let them develop their own interests. You should chill out talking smack about nerds and nerd stuff. You're completely right that wanting to be your own person is fine, but it isn't cool to crap all over someone else's interests either. Also, please recognize that at least some of this is overdramatic teenage angst. I would know. I had my angst back on IRC because I'm old. And that tons of kids wish they had a family that wanted to do stuff together. Lightsaber fights may not be your thing, but if that's their biggest sin, try to find a way to enjoy time with your family around the holiday. You'll look back on these memories with more fondness than you think right now. Have you ever calmly talked to them about this? Like, have you set them down and told them you have your own interests and you're just not into the same things they are? And maybe it seems like you were before because you were little, but now that you've grown to like your own stuff and you have your own hobbies. I don't have kids yet, but my husband and I are very into Disney and Harry Potter. If we had a boy, his name would be James, not Albus or something like that. We wouldn't try to force them to love the same stuff, but until they matured and had their own interests, things would kind of seem that way, wouldn't it? Disney-themed bedroom, Harry Potter birthday, etc. If the kids sat us down and said, "Listen, I get that you like all that stuff, but it just doesn't interest me, at least not the same level as you. I like this other stuff. I like outdoors and hiking. Tough, but we'd deal with it. And I want to join a sports team." Then OMG, things would do a 180 and we'd be going out to sports stores and checking out some hiking gear, and I'd learn which bug spray is best, and we'd make sure to get them into the team they want, etc. However, if everything seems like it's sunshine and rainbows, then suddenly 12-year-old James goes absolutely crazy, yelling at us for liking these things, shoving this stuff down his throat when we thought we were just including him in our lives, and then stormed out, leaving us with that super nasty aftertaste. I'd be more than a little hurt. If there was a calm and mature conversation before this, then not the jerk. If there was no indication that you were upset, and the first they heard about it was, "Your interests suck and they're so boring and no one cares," then you're the jerk, and you need to learn to voice your concerns and emotions better. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her parents? Please let us know. I'm so thankful my dad watched football and my mom watched cooking shows. Am I the jerk for pressuring my wife to go to my company Christmas party and calling her selfish for refusing? I work in a job where socializing and networking is very important. I make good money as of right now, but have a lot of ambition to rise higher in my current company. My wife stays home with our 2 kids, who are 2 and 4. The company is owned by Eva, who my wife really struggles to be around. Eva inherited the company from her dad and is very princessy and spoiled, and I get why my wife doesn't like her. I actually do like her, but it is an acquired taste. The other lady my wife doesn't like is Claire, the CEO's wife. Due to my position, she had to entertain Claire a couple times over the summer and hated it. She said she is annoying, spoiled, and setting women back. We also had to attend Eva's birthday party a couple months ago, and my wife told me after the fact how uncomfortable it made her. She feels like it's a fashion show, and she can't compete with the other women, and she feels like Eva and Claire are laughing at her, but does not have specific examples. Honestly, Eva is gorgeous. Claire is not really my type, but I hear men around the office drooling over her. I don't know if my wife feels insecure, so I try to boost her confidence. She feels that Eva doesn't like her and that she doesn't fit in with the other wives, but again, doesn't have any examples. Saturday was the company Christmas party, and she really didn't want to go due to not having a cocktail dress, but I told her how important it was. When we got there, she whispered to me that Eva looked ridiculous, so I knew it wasn't going to be a great night. When we left the party, I could tell that my wife was fuming. She said that Eva made a joke about her being vanilla. I believe her because Eva blurts out some weird stuff. Honestly, I think Eva got that from the guys at work, but obviously she should not have said that. She also said that Claire mom-shamed her for not having a nanny and implied we should prioritize date night over our kids. She admitted that she didn't think Claire meant that maliciously and that they were just talking about life. I know Claire's husband pretty well, and he is pretty old-fashioned, and his wife comes way before his kids. Not really our thing, but I don't think Claire was trying to be mean. I validated that Eva and Claire should be more careful about what they say and thanked my wife for sucking it up for the night. She said that was the last work social event she would be attending. I said I know she hates them, but it is very important to my career. The people at the executive level all have spouses who fit in very well and socialize. She said she didn't care and she would no longer be making herself uncomfortable. I ended up snapping at her, that she was being selfish and somewhat childish. I know it isn't fun, but lots of things in life aren't fun, and this is the nature of my job. She was very upset and said I was invalidating her feelings, though I don't see it that way, because I agreed that neither of them should have said what they said. You're the jerk. You're the one who's being selfish here. The woman you describe as gorgeous said something completely inappropriate to your wife, and you're planning to subject her to that again? You are invalidating her feelings. The women you work with sound shallow and mean, and your wife doesn't need to be around them anymore. Out of curiosity, how would you have reacted had a male boss or boss's spouse made the same comment to your wife? OP, most certainly you're the jerk. If your career depends that much on your wife suffering, then find a new company. But sounds like you're insecure about not having a trophy at the events. Not only that, but also the fact that OP himself said his partner didn't want to go because she did not have a cocktail dress. Well, maybe if you take more care of her and her needs for these events, cosmetic appointments, nails, hair, dresses, shoes, she would be happier to participate. OP says this is how business works and that you need a spouse that blends in. Well, he's not helping at all. He is set for failure at this point. P.S. All this in addition to generally being a jerk in the situation for disrespecting her and ignoring her feelings. You're the jerk on so many levels. Your wife is your wife. She isn't the first lady. If you enjoy your toxic workplace, go nuts. But it's not her job, and she doesn't have to entertain your coworkers or go to parties with them. You also claim your wife can't give examples of how crappy these women are to her, but she just gave you 2 from one night. Also, am I reading right that Eva made that comment because you've been telling guys at work that your wife is vanilla? If so, I hope she files for divorce immediately. Not the jerk. Sounds like it's time to trade her in for someone who supports you and believes in your vision. I'm retired now and have made my millions, but during my career, I had to find new partners several times. It's just part of becoming a truly successful man. You don't finish the game with the same people you started with. Good luck. My parents tried to cancel the wedding with my fiance while we were celebrating Christmas. Strap in because this is a wild ride. I'm 28, male. My fiance and my family have always been a bit rocky from when we first started dating because I came from an upper class and she didn't. That doesn't matter to me, of course. I'm engaged and over the moon in love with this woman. Anywho, we're planning on having the wedding next year. Just finished our first semester in film school and got approved for an internship for this summer. We moved out of state for school and have been there for about 2 years. During that time, we have had some money troubles trying to make it on our own. So we were heading back down to see our family for the holidays, and we had made a point to set up a dinner so our dads could meet with us to talk about the wedding and later on come up with a budget to get us out of some debt we accrued trying to get our ducks in a row before we get married. It sounds pretty straightforward. So we go into town and go to dinner. My dad, my fiance's dad, my mother's fiance, and me and my fiance are all there. Her dad and my fiance and I were expecting a conversation about a wedding budget. First thing out of my parents' mouths is that we should cancel the wedding altogether. Keep in mind, this is a full year from now after we are done with school and in our new jobs. They want the wedding called off to focus on us being more responsible with our money, and they haven't even looked over our budget yet, so they don't even know the bills we have to pay. Her dad, who had already paid for the venue, was completely taken aback by all of this and is hearing it from people he has never met before. My fiance and I immediately got upset because we had planned to come down to see the venue, thinking we could all go together after getting the money sorted out. Then my dad said in addition to canceling the wedding, we should give up on school. He never approved of it from the get-go and moved back in with him. My mom chimed in, saying that if we were having money troubles and needed their help, we weren't really living on our own at all, and to cut back on costs, we should sell our pets. Now my fiance has some issues when it comes to controlling her feelings. She basically went off on my parents, saying how it's not right for them to do this to us, and how it's wrong for my dad to put me down all the time in regards to school, which I completely agree with. My dad immediately went on a rant saying how disrespectful we are being, even though he started it all by saying we should cancel the wedding. He already agreed to pay for parts of the wedding before all of this. The only thing we asked him to do was cover the catering for 70 people we invited after he said he wanted to pitch in. At dinner, he said he wasn't going to throw $20,000 out the window. We only asked my dad for $3,000 after he said he wanted to contribute. He's a successful surgeon, so for him, $3,000 isn't all that much. Her dad was contributing $5,000 and we didn't even ask him to do anything. At this point, dinner was a flop. Both my parents just straight up left. I thought things would be cool, but it gets worse. The next day, after meeting with my mom and exchanging presents, acting like dinner never happened, which was odd, my dad called. He canceled Christmas at our house, said he wanted to grab coffee, just me and him. I thought he wanted to exchange presents and talk things out. I thought to myself, alright, he was upset, and he's had time to cool off. Now he wants to go over the details. So I asked him if I could bring my fiance's dad so they could have a do-over. He said no. I asked him if I could bring a general budget of our finances so we could go over it and I could get some advice man to man. He said no. So he pulls up in his Porsche to come pick me up from my fiance's dad's house. Doesn't even get out to say hello. I get in the car and instead of driving out to get coffee, we drive to my mom's house. Okay, so now it was both my parents, no big deal. I go in and it's my entire family. They set up an intervention to get me to leave my fiance in another state. They said I can stay with them. They can drain all the bank accounts I have with her and I could start over. They accused me of stealing cash from their house. They said she was horrible. They said I could find someone better back home. They wanted me to walk away from everything we were trying to accomplish. I could quit school there and go into a more successful occupation. I could go back to my old job, which actually pays less than what I'm making now, and start classes for an online bachelor's degree instead of going to trade school. I said no. They said they're cutting me off as their son and are not coming to the wedding. I said fine, I'm heading back home. Her dad offered to help us with the whole wedding and our money struggles. Update: we made it back home. A few things to mention. This isn't the first time they've done things like this. More stories to come. Our parents came to us and offered to help pay. We didn't just ask for money. They offered it after the engagement and wanted to help us with our money. The debt is partly our fault. Granted, we got our financial info stolen, got into a lawsuit with the bank for a breach of contract, had expensive emergency medical expenses, and tried to get loans to help with it all. Never ever get a loan unless you know with complete certainty you can pay it back. A while back, my fiance did leave her job at the post office because of unsafe working conditions. Anyone who works there or has worked there can probably relate to that in some way. Some of you have done some digging and have seen the situation I was in. It's improved slightly since then, and they gave me a $2 raise at work. Thank you all for your kind words and support. It means more than you will ever know. Reply: if it wasn't for Dad already having paid for the venue, I would say you should just elope. Asking parents for help setting up a budget isn't asking them to pay for it, although I doubt your parents recognize the distinction. For you and your fiance's sanity, don't accept any funds from your family because they'll use it as an excuse to force their choices on you. Best of luck and congratulations on your engagement. Am I the jerk for banning my husband from the main bathroom in the morning? So my husband and I have been married for 5 years now. We're both in our mid-30s. He got a new job a month ago and is working from home full-time now. I work as a hairdresser. Before my husband got his new job, he got up 2 hours before me, so I never noticed how incredibly long he takes in the bathroom in the morning. Not to get ready, but to go to the bathroom and play games on his phone. Now that he works from home, he doesn't have to get up as early and usually gets up at the same time as me. We've got a master bathroom joining our bedroom and a smaller one with just a toilet downstairs. I always use the master bathroom to get ready in the morning since the other one doesn't have outlets for my hair tools and no mirror. I usually take around 30 to 45 minutes in the morning to get ready, so I get up an hour before I have to leave so I have enough time to do my hair, which is kind of important working at a salon. Well, ever since he started working from home, we've had some fights about bathroom usage. We both get up at 8. He immediately gets his phone and goes to the master bathroom, sits on the toilet, and plays games for at least 30 minutes, usually 45. When he's finally done, I have to rush to get ready so I'm not late for work. I've asked him several times if he could either use the bathroom downstairs or if he could go to the bathroom after I'm done getting ready, since he doesn't start work till 9:30, or just not play games on the toilet for 30 minutes straight. He told me he doesn't want to use the bathroom downstairs since it's cold down there, and he's got just as much right to use the master bathroom that I do, and asked me to use the downstairs bathroom instead. I would, but can't since there's no outlets and no mirror. He doesn't need outlets nor a mirror to just go to the bathroom and play games on his phone. I even suggested setting up a makeup and hair table in the bedroom, but he doesn't want that because hairspray would get on the bed and the carpet. Somehow, we weren't able to find a solution to this super simple problem, so I started setting my alarm 10 minutes earlier than him and just locked myself in the bathroom until I'm done getting ready. He's been using the bathroom downstairs since, and now only takes like 5 minutes to go to the bathroom because he's got no phone reception in the downstairs bathroom, and it's not as warm and cozy as the master. No floor heating in the downstairs bathroom. I honestly think it's a stupid argument, but he thinks I'm being a giant jerk, and that he has just as much right to use the good bathroom as me. He's been very passive-aggressive for the past few days and complains a lot about me locking myself in. It's a super stupid argument, but I kinda don't feel like I'm the jerk here. Like, what else am I supposed to do? So Reddit, am I the jerk? Edit. I didn't think our small toilet fight would blow up this much. Thank you all for replying. A few questions and suggestions I've read a lot. Put in a space heater. Really, no need to. I know my description made the second bathroom sound like a dodgy little outhouse, but it's just a small bathroom with heating, just no floor heating. It's the same temperature as the rest of the house. Just get ready while he's using the bathroom. I think it's amazing that you are so close and comfortable to do that, but I can't. Just remodel the second bathroom, put in XYZ. Not an option, unfortunately. We're renting, and our landlord is very, very fond of their very old house. So no remodeling or putting in anything permanent like outlets. I put a small carpet in front of the toilet now, hoping that his feet will stay toasty warm. Not the jerk. He's being childish and exhausting and forcing you to get up earlier than necessary because he's inconsiderate. On a side note, if you two want kids, he's absolutely going to be the kind of dad who suddenly needs 2 hours a day to use the bathroom, exactly when the baby needs care. Do not recommend. Not the jerk. He's disrespecting you on many levels. I wonder what he does for work versus what you do. It's almost like your job, as a stylist, isn't a real job to him. He can't understand why your outward appearance is so important to your job. What's more, everything about this is about his comfort. Let me break it down. He prefers to sit on a toilet for 30 minutes and look at his phone, his stench in the air, his feet warmed by the heated tile of the master bathroom. Putting on socks, slippers, house shoes, or a small rug in the second bathroom is simply too much for him. He is prioritizing grossly inconveniencing you rather than a minor inconvenience for himself. He's fine with you being in a bathroom that smells like fresh nastiness, but he's not okay with smelling perfume, hairspray, and cosmetics in the bathroom. That's just too much for him. He's fine with you getting up early. How nice. He gets to work from home, probably wear comfy clothes, and do a job that has a remote work option. You now have to wake up an hour plus before you leave with extra time added on because of his selfish behavior. And how long is your commute? How long do you stand every day? How is this guy so comfortable with his wife being uncomfortable? He has use of that bathroom literally all day. He's a massive jerk. He's acting like a baby. You should have priority because of your career and schedule. Am I the jerk for trying to alter the dress code at my in-laws' Christmas and saying I would show up in sweats? I have a bit of a complicated relationship with my husband's family. Mother-in-law claims she likes me, but I don't think she does. She also claims she loves and adores her grandkids, but will do pretty much anything to avoid spending time with them. As a result, the relationship is pretty strained, and we only see her for holidays and the occasional family dinner. I don't really like doing holidays at mother-in-law's house because it is so formal. Everyone dresses super nice, hair and makeup is perfect. Mother-in-law pretty much lives for this stuff. Despite the annoying dress code, my husband gets to see his siblings, my kids get to see their cousins, and mother-in-law mostly ignores us anyway. This year is our year to spend Christmas with the in-laws, and I've been getting annoyed about the clothing aspect for months. It just seems so silly to me and almost like a weird competition between the women in the family. I brought up the topic to mother-in-law, and she said holidays are supposed to be special and my generation is so lazy. That annoyed me, so I talked to some of the younger women who also have kids. One sister-in-law said I was ruining Christmas. One kind of agreed, but said it wasn't worth the fight with her mom. Mother-in-law called me recently and demanded to know why I was talking behind her back to her guests. I explained I was just trying to see how people felt about it, because to me, the formal attire is just another layer of stress and it's spiraling into some sad beauty pageant. I've heard mother-in-law make comments about how she has to look perfect because so-and-so is coming. Mother-in-law said it was tacky of me to ask around and I need to stop trying to change their family, and I'm so rude and entitled for thinking I get to make changes when I just married in. This ticked me off, and I said she can wear whatever, but I will be coming in sweats and my kids will be in play clothes. Mother-in-law actually laughed and said that would be my problem, not hers. My husband says if I do it, I will embarrass him, though I'm seriously thinking of doing it, and mother-in-law is still upset that I talked to her guests behind her back. You're the jerk. It seems as though you're looking for drama with your mother-in-law. You state she doesn't like you, but actually, you just don't think she does. Don't want to take her word about the love she has for her grandkids. Is that true, or do you just have an expectation of how you want her to act with them that is not being met? The fact that you talked about her to others, one of which straight up told you that you're ruining Christmas, and the other not wanting drama, makes you come across as bratty and whiny. She is putting the effort into a nice party for everyone, and everyone seems into the opportunity to have a chance to dress up and celebrate. But you do you. Wear the sweats. Make your point, ruin the relationship, end the party with your drama. Embarrass your husband. It'll be so worth it. Merry Christmas. Exactly. OP, you're the jerk. She said you could wear what you want. There's a difference between formal, nicely dressed casual, and then your childish thread of sweatpants. You would be embarrassing your husband and kids by making something so petty your famous last stand. It's every other year. We all get why she doesn't like you. You sound tiresome. You're the jerk. It's not uncommon for families to make a bit of an effort appearance-wise for Christmas dinner. Also, I don't know why you're surprised your mother-in-law thinks you went behind her back when that's exactly what you did. Not the jerk. If my mother-in-law were like this, I would never be around her. I'd tell hubby he can go to her little fashion show by himself. I wouldn't let my kids around her either. The woman sounds like she could have her own reality show. Please don't subject your kids to this woman's madness. Stop settling for being treated like dirt just because she's your mother-in-law. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mother-in-law? Please let us know. Oh, how I love these stories about dramatic, petty first-world problems. Am I the jerk for not letting my girlfriend's family know that I spoke Spanish? I'm 24, male, not Hispanic or anything. I'm white and was adopted by my parents when I was 5. My mom is Mexican, so I learned Spanish from her. I'm pretty fluent, and I guess that surprises people sometimes because I don't look the part. White, blonde hair, blue eyes, etc. Anyways, I've been with my girlfriend for a while who is Hispanic. Never mentioned I'm bilingual because the topic was just never brought up. A month ago, her family wanted to meet me since we recently moved in together. We did it through Zoom, safety and all. It was her parents, her grandma, because she lives with her parents, and her sister. Everyone was welcoming and nice. Her grandma was the first to say something in Spanish, and her words surprised me because she was literally so nice talking to me and suddenly switched to saying something else. ¿Por qué otro cuero? Why another white boy, pretty much. Then she asked when can she set her up with one of her friend's nephews. My girlfriend told her to stop, then her parents did the same. A couple times during the convo, they switched to Spanish whenever making a comment about me. My girlfriend at least always shut down their criticisms and told them to stop talking like that. To be honest, I didn't say anything because I was curious what their real thoughts on me were. It kinda sucked that they were so freely talking about me right in my face. I finally said something when her mom mentioned my girlfriend told her I was in college and asked what I'm studying. Her dad commented to her grandma in Spanish, "Ah, no wonder he moved in with her if he's wasting all his money in school." See, the fact that we moved in together seems to be their hang-up with me. They're not happy we moved in and think because she works full-time and I work part-time that we did it so I can mooch off of her, which isn't even true because we split the bills for everything. So I answered in Spanish. We moved in together because we wanted to take the next step in our relationship and we love each other. Then I answered her mom's question. Also added that I have several scholarships that pay for everything, so what I earn goes to living expenses. They all looked panicked and right away apologized a million times for what they said. My girlfriend was shocked too, but she didn't have an issue with what I did and thought the look on their faces was hilarious. She only felt bad that I did know what they were saying all along and apologized. Her sister is telling us that what I did was petty and mean because I embarrassed them, that I should have said I knew Spanish because that was a conversation I wasn't meant to understand or be part of. Therefore, it wasn't my business to listen in. It's like I was eavesdropping to her. I get eavesdropping is bad, and they wouldn't have said anything if they knew I understood. So I guess I can see where she's coming from. Was I the jerk for not saying anything? My ex-mother-in-law demands to have a key to my house. So me and my ex have been separated for 2 years. We separated on good terms, and we get on well despite our differences. We do have a 3-year-old daughter, and he works a lot, so doesn't get to have our daughter often. For this reason, I gave him a spare key to my house so that he could pop in and see us whenever he wanted. I completely trusted him with this key. For context, I've never had a good relationship with my ex's mother. She's always hated me and accused me of ruining her son's life by getting pregnant so young. I was 18. She hates me so much that when I was pregnant with our daughter, she threatened to take me to court to gain full custody of my daughter. When I found this out, I was of course furious and did confront her. They were empty threats, as I honestly think she knew she'd be fighting a lost battle. She despises me, and honestly, I'm not her biggest fan either. I haven't much interacted with her since I left my ex, except from the fortnightly visits where I take my daughter to her house. Well, my ex has been coming over to the house as usual, but has not been using his key. At first, I thought nothing of this, but it became more frequent, and so I said, if you're not going to use your key, I'll have it back. He then informed me that his mom had asked for the key so that she had access to the house and to see her granddaughter whenever she wanted. He told me he agreed. I lost my temper completely. After everything I'd gone through in the past, I had absolutely no idea why he thought it would be a good idea to give his deranged mother my key. I told him I wanted it back immediately and that I no longer wanted him to have a key. He's furious at me, saying his mother is in pieces as all she wants is to know that she can see her granddaughter whenever she so pleases. I told him that was in no way realistic, and if she wished to spend time with my daughter, she could message or call me, and I'd bring her over with me there also. This wasn't good enough, and now him and his family are not speaking to me. So, am I the jerk? Edit. My ex only had a key as he would often come around dinner time, and having to leave the stove or stop doing chores, etc. every day became very tedious, and it was simply convenient for him to carry a key. It was a very minor inconvenience, but it made my day slightly easier. My kid was never left home alone. Update. Locksmith has been called. Glad I'm not going insane. Thank you all. Not the jerk. Start documenting these things. Exact dates, exactly what they do and say. This sounds like a course leading to a restraining order on the mother-in-law. Be prepared for that date. Stand your ground firmly on this issue. If he wants to invite her over while caring for his daughter, that's his choice. Giving her access to your home is a gross violation of trust, and you are right to revoke that access. Personally, don't ask for the key back. Just change the locks. It will give you peace of mind that you are safe again. OP. I had started documenting back when she threatened custody, but stopped when we separated. I definitely think I should go back to it and continue it. Thank you. Can't emphasize enough about changing the locks. I'd also look into getting cameras as well. Time with his mother at this point needs to be only during his time with her and never on your property. Considering you didn't mention anything about a custody agreement, I'm guessing you only have an informal one. Might be time to consult an attorney about formalizing a legal one. If grandma is feeling you are withholding her granddaughter through having normal boundaries, she likely is already looking into getting one for her son. Not the jerk. Most grandparents cannot see their grandkids whenever they want. They have to contact the parents and make arrangements to meet up. Your ex-mother-in-law wants that key for some other reason, and I doubt it's a good one. Get your locks changed. Even if you get that key back, they might have made a copy of it. It's not all that expensive, even if you get a locksmith to do it. Or you can rekey the locks yourself if you're good at DIY. And I'd look for signs that someone has been in your house while you were out. She clearly wasn't using the key while you were home, but that doesn't mean she didn't snoop around while you were out. Well, what do you think? Should ex-mother-in-law get to keep her key to the house or not? Please let us know. I think a restraining order might be a better option. I'm worried my best friend will try to hook up with my husband. I, 36 female, live with my husband and our kid. My best friend, Stacy, who's 37, has been staying with us the last few weeks while her home undergoes renovation. I met my best friend in college, and we are pretty opposite when it comes to a lot of things. She's far more carefree, particularly with men. She loves dating committed men. Wives, fiancés, or girlfriend, she doesn't care and will pursue for the thrill. There have been a couple of occasions where she's been confronted publicly by spouses and she just laughs it off after the fact. Although she can be a bit flirtatious, she's never actually done anything totally out of line with my husband, but she has with the boyfriend of a mutual friend. Now the issue. I'm going to Las Vegas in a couple days and I'll be gone for 5 days. I told her that I would prefer if she stayed somewhere else while I'm gone. She asked why, and I told her it's because of her history of going after men in relationships, and I wasn't comfortable with her there while I'm gone for so long. She got really defensive, hurt, and started to cry. She insisted that she values our friendship and would never violate that. But I held firm and said that this is just one of those things where I'd rather be safe than sorry. She'll be staying at another friend's house. I feel bad, but I also don't think I'm going to change my mind. My husband doesn't care either way and said she should understand why I feel that way. But my sister and a couple of our mutual friends said that I should trust her, and even if I don't, I should trust my husband. Am I the jerk? Update. I spoke with Stacy after work tonight and it was tough. She saw this thread and was upset that I brought it to Reddit and allowed strangers to judge her. She also acknowledged that what she does is wrong and said she's working on it, hasn't been with anyone in a while, and she has issues no one understands. You got that right. She said that more than anything, she's hurt because I really thought she'd hook up with my husband despite not trying to do so in over 15 years that we've all known each other. I brought up things she's done in the past that has added to my discomfort, and she insisted that it was innocent and she never meant anything by it. She said she's going to leave permanently because she doesn't feel welcome knowing she isn't trusted, and she doesn't want to stay where she's not wanted. She went silent for what seemed like forever, then said, I think you did the right thing. If the situation was reversed, I would ask you to leave too. Then says again that she has issues and she's not sure why she does it. She started to cry, and I told her that whatever she's going through can be worked on, and she can talk to someone who can help her sort out her feelings and give her some insight, and she said she would work on herself. We hugged, and I told her I'll be here for her while she works through it all. Not the jerk. For people saying, don't you trust your husband? 1. You know she enjoys ruining committed relationships. 2. He knows she's your friend. Why would you intentionally put him in a position where he has to ask her to leave while you are gone and tell you why he asked her? What if she made false accusations against him, either in response to him putting her out or another way to mess up your relationship? If she has changed, maybe this will be enough motivation for her to figure out why commitment to other people is such a turn-on for her. If she hasn't, not the jerk for proactively protecting your family. But I too wonder why you let her stay with you in the first place, given her total lack of shame previously. Good on you for putting your husband, your family, and the future of your friendship ahead of her short-term preferences. Not the jerk, but why are you friends with someone who you believe will hook up with your husband? Reply. I didn't take it as will hook up with him, but could attempt to hook up with him. People on here seem to be ignoring the environment and are relying completely on willpower. If you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, they'll tell you not to go to bars or hang out, even if you aren't drinking. Why? Because you're more likely to let your environment overtake your willpower. If her friend has a history that leaves OP uncomfortable, then control the environment. If her friend stays, then there is a chance of something bad happening, even if the intentions were never there, whatever. But if her friend doesn't stay there, then there is no chance of something bad happening. It doesn't have to be a moral judgment of her friend's character and intentions, just a pragmatic assessment of the situation. No need for anyone to get upset over it. I'm gonna go with everyone sucks here. Your friend, for obvious reasons, going after married and committed men on purpose is just trashy. You for continuing to be friends with her, knowing about this tendency, and for completely disregarding your husband's agency in any of this. If she tried something, he could kick her out. It's his house too. And if you think he wouldn't, why are you married to this man then? If for some reason you're determined to keep being friends with a known homewrecker, your husband is the one you should have talked to about this, told him your concerns, and assured him that he should feel free to kick her to the curb if she's got inappropriate. But if you don't trust him to do that, then again, why are you married to him? Besides, has Stacy never once been alone in the house with hubby since staying with you? If something was going to happen between them, OP, let's be real, it probably already has. You're the jerk for being friends with her at all. You're cool with her hooking up with other people's husbands, but not yours? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Homewreckers get no love from me. There's something especially vile about someone who enjoys tearing apart families. My roommate is spending too much time with her husband instead of me. Oh, this is gonna be good. So I, 21 female, moved in with my roommate, 27 female, at the beginning of the year after I answered her ad on Facebook. My roommate is married, and originally her husband also lived with her, and they were both working on finishing up their masters, but lockdown caused a setback for my roommate, so he finished before she did, and she had over a year left. He received a good job opportunity, so they both decided she would stay and finish while he went ahead and started on his career 3 hours away in their hometown. At first, I was very nervous, not only to room with someone who was much older, but also married. I was used to rooming with 3 of my closest friends and living in a dorm, so having a roommate I got along with is important to me. But we actually hit it off so well and had so many things in common. After about 2 months of living together, I considered her my best friend. She's so awesome and smart, and I've never gotten along so well with someone so well and so quickly. Even though we were all online last year, she didn't see her husband very often, and I could tell she was having a hard time with it. But she also told me that rooming with me reminded her of her early college days, so I think that made it easier on her. We didn't see each other all summer, and this semester we were mostly in person, but ended up going online again early on. I expected it would be like last semester, but she actually ended up going home to her husband a lot. She would be gone 2 weeks at a time at most, and only come back and stay for maybe a week, and I was stuck all alone in our apartment with online classes. It was really lonely, and to be honest, felt like it was unfair because I signed on to have a roommate. If I wanted to live by myself, I would have gotten an apartment by myself. 2 weeks ago she came home, and I mentioned how often she was gone, and she said, "Well, you know I was married before you even signed on." And yes, that's true, so I tried to compromise with her and suggested she could at least spend 2 weeks here and 2 weeks with her husband, but she got very uncomfortable and refused to continue the conversation. A couple of days ago, I asked if she had thought about what I said, and she said no, and I suggested she could ask her husband for a second opinion, and she looked mad and said she wasn't going to mention what I said to her husband at all because it would worry him and give him the wrong impression of our relationship, meaning me and the roommate. I don't understand why she's being so strange about everything, and I'm worried I have really messed things up for us. Edit. Some people have messaged me with this question, and I just want to clarify. Yes, I am bi. I do like women, but I do not see my roommate like that. I just feel very close with her. Bruh. You're the jerk, OP. You are her roommate, not her life partner and spouse. You're there so she doesn't have to pay the rent alone, because it's cheaper like this. You signed up to become roommates, split the bills, not for becoming besties, twinsies. Becoming friends, or even just friendly, is just a bonus. You can't dictate how much time she spends in the house or with you. If she'd rather spend her time with other friends, classmates, coworkers, or a boyfriend, you have no say in it, especially no say in regards to her husband, her family. OP, you being clingy and creepy, codependent is not her problem. You give off some serious obsessive type vibes. Get a hobby and some therapy. If you would be my roommate now after this, I would avoid you like the plague and work on either moving out ASAP or getting you out of the apartment as soon as possible, even if we were friendly before. This is creepy. I had a roommate like this and it ended very badly. I had just broken up with a long-term partner and didn't want to move when everything was in upheaval, so I found a roommate on Craigslist. She was cool and we got along really well at first, until I ended up getting back together with my boyfriend about 6 months later. She immediately became super jealous and possessive, and it creeped me out. I would come home to her crying and screaming about how I'm never home anymore, and she was so worried about me, even though we were both full-time employed, responsible people who didn't even know each other before Craigslist. She got so demanding and emotional that I finally told her she needed to chill out and consider us just roommates, because I couldn't handle the emotional stress of whatever she thought our relationship was. Her response was to find someone else to live with without telling me, and leaving me 2 weeks to move out or assume the whole rent on my own. To this day, she tells our mutual acquaintances that I betrayed and abandoned her. I'm actually baffled by this post. To be blunt, OP, you signed on to share a space with someone. That's it. A roommate is not a friend. They owe you nothing but rent and utilities. Your roommate is a married woman, and her husband is her #1 priority. Her husband and marriage will trump you 100% of the time, every time. You are just a roommate, and you are not entitled to her time, personal life, company, friendship, nothing. And she reacted the way she did because your request was extremely inappropriate and outlandish. Leave this woman alone, mind your business, and hang out with your friends. Oh, sweetie, you are still young. Roommates mean something very different when you are older. It's basically someone who pays half the rent and that's it. When you're younger, you consider them a buddy and it's a friend to hang out with, which it sounds like you do. For her, you're simply someone who splits half the rent and is a friend too, of course, but not the same degree you value her. When you're married and that age, you usually just want to hang out with your hubby all the time. New marriage, not tired of them yet. Next time you get a roommate, Make sure they're your age, as they will most likely think the same as you as to what a roommate is. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her roommate? Please let us know. Didn't they make a movie about this? I think it had Kathy Bates in it. I need to write a log of my time at work? Fine. Some years ago, I worked at a logistics facility, and leadership had a way of adding workload to middle management. Rarely did any of them last more than 3 years before they either got disillusioned or changed jobs somehow. After working the floor there for 2 years, I was promoted to a team leader, and after 3 years as team leader, I became shift leader, managing a shift of about 60 workers. We did pretty well. No other shift at this or other facilities could match our KPIs, and we did a lot of cross-training and on-the-fly adapting to the ever-changing needs of the complex and current orders and workflow. I found the work to be interesting and challenging until I got a new manager who bent towards micromanaging. It didn't take long before he wanted me to write a detailed log of how I spent my days, hours, and quarter hours. I told him this was a really bad idea, but if he wanted this, I would of course comply. The first week, I accounted for every 30 minutes with a line or two, thinking this was enough of a waste of time, but I was soon informed of my mistake. New boss wanted more details, and every 15 minutes accounted for. Again, I told him this wasn't smart, but I got overruled. The next week, I made sure to write 4 or 5 lines for every 15 minutes of the workday, like writing down the names of the workers who took the early lunch and who took the later lunch. I wrote the same lines for every 15 minutes if the task took more than 15 minutes and so on. To his credit, he actually followed up on a few things the first 3 weeks, and if he had kept doing that, I wouldn't have complained much. But of course, he gave up after a couple of weeks. I noticed this when I made a reference to one of the follow-ups and how we had failed that specific metric, for a good reason, but never heard anything from him. So from then on, I suspected he had stopped reading my logs. Cue malicious compliance. After keeping the logs honest for a few weeks more, I felt secure that he never read them. I started adding a few tidbits of my own making. At first, it was a line telling him that if he used a certain phrase when talking to me the next week, I'd buy him a soda. He never used any of the phrases and thus never got free stuff. An example of a phrase could be, "Pineapples are best served hot," or "Apples are sweeter than oranges," general statements, but unlikely to pop up randomly in conversations. Boss still claimed he read every single one of my reports and ridiculed me for claiming it was a bad idea. As the weeks went on without having to pay up, my malicious compliance kept getting bigger and bigger. Eventually, I promised him $100 in cash if he would talk to me about a specific picking location in our facility during the next week. He didn't. But of course, I also started writing many relevant things into the logs, like questions for him on how to solve a potential problem, telling him he needed to start planning for vacations well in advance of the holidays and such. Still no response in any way, shape, or form. If he really did read them, why not use them to get questions and potential problems on the record? So after a year of writing logs that were never read and hadn't been opened since I saved them in the assigned folder, our great leader got himself into some trouble and tried to shift the blame onto his underlings. We didn't appreciate that, especially when the cause of the trouble was written in clear text in these logs from the very first moment we discovered there might be a problem, all the way up to where it was an ongoing hindrance that cost us more and more time and money every week. Eventually, a big meeting was called with all of us foremen, team leads, shift leads, and middle managers, with several big brass observing our boss trying to fix the situation. Whenever he went for one of my people, I stood up for them and told them I took the responsibility for the entire shift. There was no need for him to call out my people because I was there and it was my responsibility. A gleam in his eye told me he was about to make me the scapegoat, and I sat there calmly while he tore me a new one. He didn't hold back and really gave me his all to such an extent that several of the big brass started stirring uncomfortably. They could probably sense he was overplaying his hand. After the tirade petered out, or he had run out of steam, I asked him if he was done, and if he was done, if I could reply. He agreed and leaned back in his chair, confident that he had destroyed my character. I took out my laptop, connected it to the big screen so that everyone could see, and opened the folder where my logs were saved. I pointed out that they hadn't been open in a while and that track changes had been activated and no changes had been logged by his user. My user was the only one that had made the logs, edited them, and saved them. I then went on describing the log entries where the problem was discovered, how we tracked its development and maturation into the big problem it was today. One of the best moments was when I could show everyone that we had in fact suggested several solutions to the problem many times. I had also logged that we had had several meetings discussing the problem, its causes, and probable solutions, sometimes even directly asking my manager what he thought about them. There were logs that showed we had told him about the problem many times in many ways, but no logs of any solutions or response from him. I was so focused on the presentation, I didn't really look at my boss, but when I was done, I glanced up at him, and I can safely say I've never seen a face more angry than his. He was furious. But of course, his boss and his boss's boss were there, right next to him, so he couldn't do much. His boss asked him if he had anything to say for himself, but he didn't really. He claimed I had edited them later and filled in details not known at the time of writing, but he was obviously reaching for anything to save himself. One of the big brass asked him about a phrase he had seen. What's so special about picking location? I told him all about my little joke and how my boss had missed getting tens of free sodas and probably $400 if he had merely said the magic words each week. Amidst general laughter, I was told to leave the meeting along with anybody my pay grade or lower. 3 hours later, some security guy emptied his office of his personal belongings, and 2 weeks later, a new boss arrived from another facility. It took him 3 days to ask about pineapples and other apples, and he had made sure that there was nothing wrong with the aforementioned picking location. He also told me to keep the logs more general and only a few lines for each day, but to also mention things of operative importance directly to him. Newest boss and me had a great relationship where he left me and my shift mostly alone, and we kept topping out KPIs for the rest of my time in that company. Micromanager boss was fired eventually, found a new job at a lower level at another company, but only lasted about a year. 5 years later, I saw him selling used cars in a neighboring town. Life hasn't treated him well. Am I the jerk for asking my son and daughter-in-law for a copy of the key to the new house they bought? 2 weeks ago, my son, Ethan, 27, and his wife, Jess, 30, bought a small one-story house in the town we live in. After settling down, they invited us for a small party for the occasion. We sat for dinner and talked about the house a bit. Me, my husband, and Jess continued conversing after Ethan excused himself to take an important call. Jess showed me the original key to the house, and I asked if she made copies yet, and she said no. I said she should, and also give one copy to me as well. She looked at me funny and asked why she should. I explained that it is necessary so that it could be used in emergencies. She rudely said, I don't know what kind of an emergency would require you having a key to our house. Sure won't be a fire incident. She obviously didn't seem to have any idea that a fire incident wasn't what I meant, and I got offended by her sarcasm. I pointed out that it's not just her decision because this is my son's house as well. She smiled at me trying to be polite and stated that only the ones who contributed towards the house got a copy and that I really don't need one anyway. Also assured me that my son will have the same answer for me, basically saying, don't bother bringing this up with Ethan, he'll tell you the same thing. But I did, and she spoke on his behalf the entire argument, repeating what she said over and over. Things escalated to her calling me pushy and me telling her that she was being unnecessarily rude and disrespectful. My husband and I left in a rush, and I felt horrible. My husband went on and on about how paranoid and controlling I was to basically be demanding a copy of the key to the new house. But again, I stated that I was just trying to be helpful and taking extra precautions since anything could happen. But he insisted I overstepped and ruined Ethan's and Jess's joy for their new house as well as dinner. I genuinely do not think what I said was out of line, and I'm not sure why Jess reacted so intensely. I think my request was innocent. You're the jerk. You sound like one of those overbearing mother-in-laws on r/justnomother-in-law. You had a point about someone having a key, but that someone didn't have to be you, and you should have talked to them together. You should have dropped it once she said no, but instead you pulled the "it's my son's house too" card and made a power play for your son and which woman he had listened to, which is weird and unnecessary. Then you got offended and had to make a scene. Your son is married and has a new priority now. Leave her alone. You're the jerk. You don't get to demand a key to someone else's house, and trying to override a wife's wishes in her own home by acting as if you have rights in your son's home is going to put you on a fast track to never being invited. Her reacting as intensely as you describe suggests that you have a problem with overstepping generally. Take a hard look at your own behavior. You're the jerk. If they needed an emergency person with an extra key, they would have given it to that person on their own. Also, your daughter-in-law and your son are a team. Assuming he'd go against his teammate in an argument with you is not great. You overstepped boundaries, and instead of backing off when she reinstated them, you kept toeing over that line and refusing to apologize for it and move on. Let them have their space. Yes, I'm going to talk to you like that. I made the mistake yesterday of being slightly disappointed that I hadn't anything crazy or weird to share recently. This was my punishment. I put up the sign by the night window saying I'd be back in a minute and headed to the bathroom. When housekeeping is here, we leave the lobby door unlocked so they can come and go easily. This normally isn't a problem as there is a large "Do Not Enter" sign on the door, another saying "Employees Only Check In at Night Window," and a big arrow pointing at said night window. From time to time, someone will come in, but always step out again upon being corrected without issue. The housekeepers were on lunch in the breakfast room, so I didn't really worry about leaving the lobby unattended. A moment later, from the bathroom, I hear a commotion in the lobby and some unfamiliar voices. I finish up quick and step out. The head housekeeper is waiting for me and tells me that some people came into the lobby and won't leave. Awesome. I step to the front, and on the couches, surrounded by the boss's dog's toys, is a visibly but not heavily pregnant woman holding a shorted cigarette. Standing next to her is a man holding some shopping bags. Neither are wearing masks. Me. I need you folks to get out of the lobby. It's closed. Normally, I might not be so blunt, but considering they had already argued with the head housekeeper about leaving the lobby, it seemed like a waste of time to start at polite customer service. The guy decided that my tone was going to be the new reason he wouldn't leave. Guy. Excuse me? You're gonna talk to me like that? Me. Yes, I'm going to talk to you like that. The lobby is clearly marked as closed, and the head housekeeper already told you need to leave. Then he tried using the woman's pregnancy as an excuse. He was surprised to learn that his girlfriend being pregnant didn't somehow make the rules not apply to them. He tried arguing that it was cold outside and they had a reservation, and yet the lobby was still closed. During the back and forth, they made exactly no effort to start leaving the lobby, and it didn't seem like they intended to. I credit this exclusively to the fact that I'm not terribly intimidating in my adorable cartoon kitten mask. I also decided I definitely didn't want them staying at the hotel. Both were aggressive, and the woman looked and sounded as if she was under the influence of something. I informed them I would not be honoring the reservation because of their behavior, and they needed to leave. If they did not leave, I would call the police to help them leave. What followed will likely be a familiar scenario. They think I'm bluffing and say go ahead, call the police. They see me call the police, realize I'm not bluffing, and leave the lobby. I hung up before disconnecting to dispatch as it seemed as if they were leaving. I quickly locked the lobby door for security as soon as it shut behind them. Apparently, we weren't done, as the girl finally located the night window where they should have been in the first place and started screaming at me to give them their points back. I told her she'd need to contact Breezy Pig for that. She tried arguing with me about it, but the only way to get your points back is to go through the brand. There isn't really anything I can do. But she's a dumb jerk, so she kept arguing with me about it anyway. She started calling me fat and rude, and since we were apparently playing the observation game, I called her a toothless jerk. She really didn't appreciate me pointing out the painfully obvious as she had done and decided she was going to try to come back into the lobby and was rattling and banging at the door. At that point, I decided maybe I do need to call the police after all before this nutcase breaks something. I start the call, then she's screaming at me that she's going to record me and it's going to go viral. Her boyfriend is back from wherever he wandered off to and is trying to get her to leave. She also screams at him, something about not giving a hoot. She's going to record me and it will go viral. I deviously foil her plans by stepping into the back room where she can't see me. I hear her run out of steam while I'm in the back on the phone with the dispatcher. When I don't hear her anymore, I poke my head out and check the cameras to find them both gone. I relay this to the dispatcher, but they decide to send an officer over to check it out anyway and see if they're still in the area. While waiting for them, I pull up the reservation so I can pass the information on to the police. I check the woman's name against our DNR spreadsheet and guess who is already there. Under reason, it says, angry about deposit, did not understand basic rules, rude, and on drugs. I decide to Google her name. Guess who has a habit of being arrested for trespassing and possession? No wonder her boyfriend wanted her to get moving.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.